Once upon a time, a dungeon was built for students under the Galden Kingdom Magic Academy, and since then, the record for passing was the 37th floor. But this record is about to be broken by a group of 4 people. This legendary group of 4 geniuses managed to reach the 68th floor, and the speed with which they conquer the dungeon does not decrease every day. And the name of this legendary and rather strong group, consisting of 4 geniuses, was Endless Days. The court magician Alec Jugret was pacing the 29th floor of the dungeon. The floor was a huge, misty space, with various abandoned buildings and graves in the vastness of it. Alec wore light clothes with a raincoat and a scarf covering his neck. He walked on a rather large, shallow lake. Coming out of the water and stepping onto the ground, he discovers a foggy swamp. He talks out loud, saying that he could use the magic of walking on water right now. However, it doesn't matter to him, so they went to the 30th floor anyway. He lowers his scarf and walks over to a low pedestal overgrown with the roots of a nearby tree, on which a round glass ball is located. He wonders if he needs any weapons, even though he knows he doesn't understand anything anyway. He holds out his hand to the ball. There's sadness in Alec's eyes when he remembers that 4 years have passed, and in his head, there are memories of 4 people who stood next to him with smiles, also stretching out their hands to the glass ball. Suddenly, Alec came to his senses and slapped his face with both hands to stop thinking about these memories. Alec comes to his senses and puts his hand to the ball, thinking to himself that he doesn't care about these people, especially now he has someone to protect. After a while, Alec joined his team, consisting of Regulus, the Crown Prince, Lenny, and X. His Highness Regulus turned to Alec, saying that they needed to talk a little now. Alec, who was examining something from his backpack at the time, closed it and turned to Regulus. He asks if His Majesty wants to know something about the dungeon or the next floor. He replies that he just wants to ask Alec a question. He asks Alec to tell him what his task is there. Alec answers with incomprehension that his task is to support His Highness with his magic. Then Regulus asks another question. He asks Alec what he was supposed to do in their last fight. Once again, Alec does not understand what His Highness means. Regulus explains that he, the Crown Prince, wields a sword better than anyone else. Lenny is the best at fire magic, and X holds off opponents perfectly. After that, he pays attention to Alec's actions during the fight, who neither protects them nor helps them, but only uses support magic. Regulus doesn't understand how Alec can only be capable of this, being a court magician. Alec tries to say something in his defense, saying that His Highness is wrong, and the magic of support is actually very important to the group. However, Regulus interrupts him, saying that he does not want to hear his excuses. He also doesn't like that Alec is constantly asking them to step back for a while, as they are not ready, and he is tired of it. Alec asks His Highness to give him an opportunity to explain himself. Regulus doesn't like it, and then he asks Alec to explain what is behind his back. Alec hesitated for a second, then pulled out a small weapon. He explains that it is a short sword. Alec thought that it would not interfere with him on the next floor. In response, Regulus takes away his sword and grabs Alec by the robe. He shouts that he has already told Alec that he will not need a weapon. Regulus chastises him for daring to act arbitrarily in his group. He says he's always been against it, and he doesn't need people like Alec. He tightens his grip on the court magician's cloak. Regulus says with a grin that even though his father told him to put up with Alec, but his patience ran out. After that, he immediately removes the cloak of the court magician from Alec. He says that this robe is too good for him, and they will take good care of it themselves. Alec stands there, not saying a word. Regulus adds, as he leaves, that the day after tomorrow he will go to defend the 30th floor of the dungeon without him. X and Lenny leave after the Crown Prince. Regulus says that Alec can go wherever he wants, and he doesn't need a court magician who uses support magic. After a while, it was already dark outside, and Alec was sitting in his room. He dipped his pen into a jar of ink and continued to write his notes. At some point, he stopped and thought about it. He thought about how he couldn't help his team. He knows that the 30th floor does not allow the use of magic, and he is too dangerous even for them. Alec thought that he had been supporting them all this time, that they all trusted each other. Alec was well aware of the Crown Prince and the others' attitude towards him, but he didn't know that they thought he was dragging them down. Alec remembers how the crown prince scolded him for the court magician, attacking without permission, and demanding obedience. He also ignored Alec's words that they had a lot of luggage, saying that he still had one hand free. Words also flash through his head that he is no longer needed, which makes the pen in Alec's hand shudder and he frowns. However, after a moment, he sighs and picks up his notes. He wasn't going to give up yet. Alec made a lot of notes about the next floor, hoping that after reading them, His Majesty would understand everything. Alec realizes that he is not strong enough, but he also knows not to underestimate the dungeon. However, when Alec arrives at the castle the next day, he's not allowed in by the guards, saying that civilians are forbidden to enter the royal palace. Alec tries to explain himself when Lenny approaches him. She asks him what he wanted in the palace. Alec asks her to explain what is going on, to which she says that Alec, apparently, has not yet been informed that from that day on he was no longer the court magician of this kingdom. Alec doesn't believe what he's heard. Lenny says with a grin she heard about what happened on the 68th floor and that it's a pretty funny story. She also says that Alec should be ashamed of himself for angering the prince. Alec tries to ask her to at least give his letter to King Felix. He says that he joined His Highness Regulus's group only by order of the king, and that after reading the records, the king will understand everything. In response, Lenny tears up his notes and orders the guards to keep a close eye on Alec. Later, Alec wanders around the city with a packed suitcase. He doesn't believe this is the end. Since 4 years after graduating from the academy, he tried his best as a court magician. However, Alec immediately gets rid of these thoughts, determined to show his former comrades what he is capable of. On the way, Alec notices a passing student at the academy. He looks at the building in front of him, not believing that he unknowingly came there. He remembers how he spent the night in the dungeon, and then went to the graduation ceremony all dirty and beaten up. Alec was standing in front of a staircase that led directly to the nearby Royal Academy of Magic, where he had spent 4 years of his life. Suddenly, someone calls his name. Alec turns around and sees a pretty young girl in front of him. She looks at him with her eyes wide open. Alec barely has time to pronounce the girl's name, Yorha, as she rushes at him with hugs. The girl says that it really is her, and as she never expected to see a hero here. The young man continues to stare at her in surprise. She says with a smile that she did not think she would see him here. He says it's better to ask her what she forgot there. Yorha, giggling, replies that it's a secret. Alec and Yorha decide to take a walk and chat together. He finds out that the girl has 5 days to go to Exile, so she decided to take a break here. Then Alec asks if she is alone, and Yorha confirms. She also says she will be here for a while, so they can go somewhere. She asks Alec if he remembers what she said before graduation. He remembers them perfectly. Then she said that from that day on, their paths diverge, but they will definitely meet again. After that, Yorha suggests that he go with her. She also adds that she needs his strength. She asks if he would like to join a group of 3 as an adventurer. He is silent and covers his eyes with his hand. She asks if he's okay. Alec just apologizes in response. Then Yorha apologizes with a smile for such a sudden offer, as Alec is a court magician and adventurer. Alec apologizes again, and then she says she's glad to hear it, but she better look for someone more worthy than him. Yorha anxiously asks him to tell her what happened. Alec tells her what happened, and she is very outraged that Alec was exiled and stripped of the title of court magician only because he used support magic. Yorha is very loudly outraged by such injustice, and Alec notes that she speaks too loudly. After that, she pouted resentfully. After that, she says that she would like to invite Alec to her house anyway, and he is surprised that she was looking for him specifically for this. Alec, with a slightly sad face, says that he is no longer the same as he was 4 years ago, especially since he was stripped of his title. Yorha says with a smile that she has heard that the boss of the 68th floor of the dungeon is Hydra. She also says that she found out about it the day before her graduation, and the person who said that it would be the last test for him. She remembers how she collected items and food, and the 4 of them went to a deep dungeon. Yorha, along with the rest of the team, fought fiercely against the monsters using defensive support magic. She uses an ice wall to protect herself from the fiery breath of monsters. The girl behind her tells her that he will distract the monster so that Yorha can get out of there. However, she is using the ice wall again. It's hard for her because she can't create the combining attacking magic of the 5 elements. Suddenly, another person comes to them. He apologizes to his comrades for waiting. They greet Alec with a smile, and he in turn uses the magic of the 5 elements and a combining attacking spell. After that, Alec uses a multicolor, delivering a powerful blow to the monster. Yorha also remembers the graduation day itself. Graduates at the reward ceremony discussed the person who went into the dungeon and did not return. There were 3 other people with him. One is Lane, Klasia Aneros, Yorha Eisens, and the band leader himself, Alec Jugret. They are just coming to the ceremony while the others are looking at them in surprise. All 4 of them walk together smiling while their bodies are covered with bruises and abrasions, and their clothes are torn and stained. Yorha recalls that the 68th floor of the dungeon was cleared that day, and also, on that day, a group of 4 people broke up. Yorha turns to Alec and asks him to start over and continue their endless days. Alec and Yorha went on a trip together on a cart. They eventually arrived at the dungeon city of Exile. The heroes thought that, finally, the legendary group was back together. Yorha was happily pacing around, holding a suitcase in her hands. The girl joyfully shouts to the whole street that they have arrived. Looking around, Alec noticed a lot of adventurers around. While Alec and Yorha were walking around Fizzle together, Alec told his friend that he expected so many adventurers in this city. Yorha says with a smile that this is a great city, and that adventurers are well treated in it. She also says that she and 2 other people use it as a meeting place. She also adds that they are staying in a dungeon away from the city for now. Yorha tells Alec that before they leave, they need to register him as an adventurer. She is very happy that Alec has decided to join them and is looking forward to a new big adventure. However, upon joining the Adventurers Guild, Alec and Yorha faced an unforeseen problem. The girl at the counter signed the paper and returned it to Yorha, apologizing and saying that their application was rejected and they could not go to the dungeon. Alec is confused, and Yorha is clearly not happy with what she has heard, and a nervous smile appears on her face. She doesn't understand why this is happening. The girl at the counter then calls the next person, but Yorha stops the girl, whose name is Misha. Yorha asks her to change her mind. However, Misha replies that these are the rules and suggests that they come next time and get a pass. Alec asks which pass she's talking about. Then Misha explains that the pass is their guild card, allowing them to go to the dungeon from the 30th floor and above, but it can only be obtained if the adventurer has been in their guild for more than 2 years. Alec is a little doubtful, as 2 years is quite a long time for him. He puts his hand to his face rather awkwardly. Yorha continues to try to convince Misha. She says that Klaja told her that the guild would be ready to help them. Then Misha thinks about her words and remembers how Klaja came to them a few days ago. Hearing this, Yorha smiles as she gets hope. However, the next moment, Misha repeats for them the words of Klaja, who demanded that Misha just accept him. Alec and Yorha don't say anything in response. After giving up, they left the guild and sat on a bench in the middle of the city, buying themselves some food. Yorha desperately clutched her head, calling herself stupid because she had given a task to Klaja, but had not explained to her at all what to do. Alec asks her not to worry so much. Yorha pouted resentfully and took a bite of her sandwich. She said that they are now on the 52nd floor, and she does not want to wait 2 years at all. However, after finishing her sandwich, she happily jumped off the bench, trying to cheer herself up with words. She suggests that Alec try to start over. Alec realizes that she's probably talking about the dungeon. Yorha asks him not to worry, saying that he can go to the floors below the 30th, since they are adventurers and are now in a city surrounded by dungeons. After that, Yorha brings Alec to the central dungeon of Exile, saying that they need to enjoy the city to their heart's content. Together they go into the dungeon and reach the 2nd floor, a dense forest. Yorha points her wand at Alec and uses her support magic to strengthen him. Thanks to this, Alec successfully uses super speed to deal with several flying demons in one blow. Alec praises Yorh for his support. She's not sure if Alec should overwork himself so much, saying that today they just wanted to try not to dive deep into the dungeon. She doesn't understand at all when everything went wrong, and their simple first adventure after so many years of separation turned into a full-fledged sweep. Her eyes widen when she suddenly notices a red hornet in front of her. Alec assumes that something has happened to their nest, as he has read a little about the likes of them. Yorha says that he does not remember at all the number of hornets on the 2nd floor. Alec continues to deal with the hornets, saying that they need to get through them. Despite his words, Yorha understands that these demons are no match for him. But she is not in the best shape right now, so she decides to use support magic and surround herself with a shield. Alec tries to stop his friend, saying that she is crazy to want to go there alone. Yorha demands that Alec let her go, saying that he knows perfectly well that the hornets will not be able to penetrate her shield. She asks him to trust her, since he is now part of their group. Upon hearing this, Alec recalls his previous command when he asked the Crown Prince not to go to dangerous places alone. That's why he started learning support magic to protect the prince. He analyzed the dungeons, looking at where they could pass. When he went down into the dungeon, he only thought about eliminating dangers, which is why he used support magic. Alec is coming to his senses, remembering that he is no longer a court magician, and now he is an adventurer. He uses attack magic, directing many fiery spears at the hornets. After that, he immediately uses a lightning strike to finally finish off the monsters, from which nothing remains but dust. After that, Yorha gives Alec a friendly slap on the back, saying that it was great. The hero, hearing these words, falls into some surprise. She says with a smile that he made her worry about him, but nevertheless, he is still the best magician she knows. Alec looks at his happy girlfriend with a smile. At some point, the ground cracks under Alec's feet, and in the next moment, it splits into pieces, and something bursts out of the dark depths. The unknown creature only escaped from the ground, but in a matter of seconds managed to rise high up. Alec does not see Yorha, who was standing next to him, and, looking up, he sees her. Namely, that she caught the rod in the tooth of a giant worm. She squints in fright, holding the wand with both hands and trying not to let go of it, since burning from such a height can be quite painful for her. Alec realizes that it is because of this mudworm that the hornets are raging. He asks Yorh not to move until he has dealt with the worm. Alec picks up his wand and turns to Yorha, asking if she studied support magic at the academy. At first, the girl looks at the hero in disbelief, and then she immediately understands what he means. The girl replies that she studied it just like him, only he was the best at attacking magic. At this time, the Crown Prince is at his mansion when he learns that Exiled has left the kingdom. Minnie says she has heard that he has become an adventurer. In response, the prince laughs. He says that the dungeon is not a place for jokes, and Exiled will simply die there at the first opportunity. The prince confidently says with a grin that knowing Alec, he really will be gone soon. At this time, Alec, who is in the dungeon, uses attacking magic, after which a fiery creature resembling a dragon appears around him. Alec points at the worm, indicating the victim of his spell. After that, the dragon wraps the worm's body completely, not allowing it to escape its fate. After successfully descending into the dungeon, Alec and Yorha headed to the bar for a drink. Yorha asks him to eat well, as he is now part of their group. Alec is amused by the good mood his girlfriend is in. Yorha gulps down several large sips of booze, after which she turns to Alec with an offended face. She says his last fire spell was just gorgeous. She also says that because of this spell, they almost turned into fried chickens. Alec anxiously asks his friend if she is okay, because it seems to him that she has drunk too much alcohol. Yorha tries to say something in response, but quickly falls asleep. Alec notes with a smile that his girlfriend is still weak to alcohol. After that, he covers Yorh with his jacket. Some man in the bar says with a grin that Alec is behaving very nobly. A tall man with a drink in his hand asks him how he can even be an adventurer of Exile. Alec answers casually, even without looking at the man. This annoys him, and he starts threatening Alec for not looking into his eyes. Alec continues to drink, pissing the man off, after which he decides to teach Alec manners and hits him over the head with a bottle. At the moment of impact, the girl continued to sleep peacefully. The man smiled maliciously, thinking that he could teach the hero manners. However, the blow did nothing, as Alec managed to use a shield on himself. The man says with a smile that he finally looked at him, while saying Alec's full name. He knows that Alec used to be Galdana's court magician. He also says that he does not understand at all how such a person from the elite became an adventurer, then hands him a piece of paper. Alec realizes that this is a pass. The man apologizes for his audacity, sipping the remains of alcohol from a broken bottle, saying that Alec already sees what condition he is in. Alec isn't sure what he means. Then the man points the broken bottle at Alec and demands that he show him more of his abilities. The man sits down at a table with Alec and Yorha, who is still asleep because of the alcohol she had drunk, demanding that he show more of his abilities. To make sure Alec agrees, he shows him the pass, asking if he doesn't want to get it. Alec tries to wake Yorh up to leave there while not taking his eyes off the suspicious man. He understands perfectly well that he would never agree to such an offer and thinks about who this guy is in general. After a couple of minutes, Yorha finally opens her eyes heavily and lazily asks what happened. When she sees the man in front of her, she recognizes him as a guildmaster and wearily asks what he is doing here. Alec is surprised that the guildmaster has been in front of him all this time. Then he suggests that Yorha and Alec go after him. He brings them to the Adventurers Guild and takes them to an unusual place. They are descending through unknown tunnels. After walking through them, they find themselves in a huge underground arena with bleachers, and the guildmaster proudly says that they are in the guild underground arena for training. As Alec and Yorha looked around in surprise, the man behind them cracked his fingers, flexing his fists. He introduces himself to Alec, giving his name, Rivier stance. He also tells him that Alec should only show all his abilities while taking off his cloak. Alec realizes that Rivier wants to personally test his skills in order to give him a pass if necessary. Yorha, in turn, actively encourages his friend, saying that he may not have another such chance, and he must agree. However, Alec looks at his hand and says that he probably won't succeed, since his mana has not recovered yet. But he agrees with Yorha that he may not have another chance like this. Alec tells her that he will be able to join her and the others soon. Yorha is rooting for her friend, saying that she will be waiting for him. After that, Alec stands in front of Rivier and, pointing his wand at him, says that he is ready while Rivier is warming up. He says he has heard that Alec works as Galdana's court magician. Alec replies that, unfortunately, he has already been fired from this position. Talking to his opponent, Alec remembers that he had already heard somewhere about a man named Rivier Stanze. Alec remembers that he is a great magician who led a group of S-rank adventurers 10 years ago. Alec comes to the conclusion that Rivier may have been strong before, but now everything should be different. Alec knows that victory will belong to the one who attacks first. He decides to immediately use his fastest and most proven spell, namely a lightning strike, so that the enemy does not have time to react. However, Rivier clearly does not want to give the victory to the former court magician so easily. He uses the splash to create a counterattack. The attacks of both opponents come from different sides of each other. They both manage to dodge despite the fact that both attacked almost simultaneously. Seeing how strong the attack turned out to be, Alec realizes that Rivier is still quite strong. Rivier continues to strike more blows while Alec watches him. He reflects that Lightning Strike is his fastest spell. But even so, he is amazed by the fact that Rivier still managed to react and counterattack. Since he failed to successfully attack at long range, Alec decides to change his already familiar tactics and switch to melee combat in order to also use combined magic, hoping to weaken the enemy's vigilance. However, before Alec can get close to the opponent, Rivier puts his fist to the ground and uses support magic, reinforcement. Before Alec can react, Rivier is already rushing towards him, using an accelerated pace. He strikes the adventurer in the head, which causes him to fly back several dozen times and hit the wall. Yorha is trembling watching this because she is worried about her friend, and her excitement is growing by the minute. Rivier's facial features change, and disappointment and even a little resentment can be clearly seen on his face when he realizes that Alec used the shield again and did not even try to attack in response. He realizes that he managed to react and use it during his accelerated step, while showing that his quick reaction is, of course, a very commendable skill. Alec confirms his words, while not forgetting to mention that it was quite difficult, so as not to exaggerate his abilities too much. Alec also remembers his words that attack is much better than defense and understands that in battle Rivier clearly follows his principles. His attacking defense is simply incomparable. Thanks to this, Alec felt for himself how destructive the power of an S-rank adventurer can be. Alec is thinking about what he should do next. Unfortunately, he realizes that he will not be able to use the shield again. Alec realizes that he needs to come up with a new tactic against such a serious opponent as soon as possible. However, as soon as Alec thinks about it, his mind is transported back to those near, but very unpleasant, memories. The image of the Crown Prince reappears in his memory. A smirk appears on Alec's face, and he clearly finally comes to a realization when he remembers the words of the Crown Prince. The latter forbade Alec to use any kind of weapon throughout the entire time. He realizes that just recently he was such a naive fool. Alec pulls himself together and decides to finally get rid of all doubts. Since the arena is underground, he is not limited by the rules and decides to use the sword. Looking at how Alec decided to attack immediately after the shield and suggests that he just give up. Rivier uses the splash again, but Alec evades his attacks and rapidly approaches him. Then Rivier decides that victory is on his side, since from such a close distance, Alec will not have time to block his fist. However, Alec doesn't dodge. Unexpectedly for Riviera, Alec does not try to dodge, and only stands firmly in his place. He says it will be difficult, however, having decided to attack now. Riviera will no longer have a chance to dodge, after which Alec uses a lightning bolt on the enemy. After this attack, the opponents look at each other in silence. After that, Riviere decides to attack Alec again, but he manages to dodge. Everyone is silent for a few moments. A grin appears on Riviere's face. He says he's amazed at how Alec broke his spell in such a short time. He adds that Yorha seems to have made the right choice. Alec agrees with him and turns to his opponent. Riviere, in turn, regains consciousness and says with a smile that it was a lot of fun. However, it is clear from his mood that he is clearly not going to end their battle on this. His smile becomes more bloodthirsty, and massive iron gloves appear on his hands. He says that this dragon ear is his best artifact, while clearly setting himself up for the continuation of the battle, as does Alec, who looks at him with a smirk. Artifacts are very valuable treasures, ideal for a dungeon. Artifacts can take any form. They can be weapons, accessories, or armor. Many adventurers always want to get them. This is because it is known how many different improvements they can give to their owner on a permanent basis, even without using magic. Besides, they are quite rare. Using Dragoneer, Riviere delivers a powerful blow to Alec, but he manages to dodge and the blow falls to the ground. Alec picks up his sword, mentally calling Rivera a liar. Alec looks with admiration and horror at how Riviere smashed the stone floor with his gloves, like a rotten tree. Alec is horrified to realize the incredible destructive power that the artifact possessed in the hands of the guildmaster. Riviere looks at the opponent who managed to dodge, while saying with a grin that he flew quite far away trying to dodge his blow. Riviere, as a mockery, again offers him to surrender. Alec responds to his suggestion with sarcasm, while extending his hand forward to use attacking magic again. A smile full of excitement shines on the hero's face at this moment. Alec uses the thunderstorm projectile again on the Riviera, but this time, this attack does not work on him, since he was able to protect himself with gloves. He instantly approaches Alec, saying that his attack doesn't work on him anymore. Riviere tries to attack again, but Alec manages to dodge. Riviere has made it clear many times that he wants to see the former court magician on the attack, and not how he endlessly dodges punches until he runs out of steam. For this reason, the guildmaster decides to establish a new rule in their contract. He angrily tells Alec that he will not get a pass if he continues to run away without attacking. A worried expression appears on Yorha's face. She's increasingly worried about Alec. She understands that Alec's strategy is not the best, since the guildmaster uses the Dragoneer artifact, which is an incredibly powerful artifact that increases attack and defense, and quite strongly. Riviere continues to attack. Alec continues to dodge. At some point, magic surrounds Riviere's body, and Alec looks at it with horror and incomprehension. However, Yorha knows that this artifact also repairs wounds at high speed, because the longer Alec fights, the worse it gets for him. Yorha tries to dissuade the guildmaster by asking if he is going to hit everyone, as he is clearly too strong. He replies that it is, since he is clearly quite determined. Alec decides to attack while the guildmaster is distracted, but he realizes that he clearly cannot handle such a force. Alec tries to inflict multiple blows on Rivera's body in order to inflict new wounds and prevent him from recovering. However, the guildmaster only laughs in response to his attacks. But he also notes that Alec finally realized that the more he thinks, the more he recovers. Alec realizes that in this case, he needs to change his strategy and start attacking more often and defending less. He confidently tells the guildmaster that he will no longer be able to recover. Alec argues that he needs to use strong magic at a very short distance. However, the problem is that he doesn't know how much mana he has left. He understands that he only has a chance for one shot, and if he fails, he will lose. Alec remembers that when he used to go to the dungeons, he could fight for several days. Knowing this, he is sure that he will be able to give his best here. At this time, Rivier asks him why he is so inattentive, after which he hits Alec with a powerful attack for waiting too long before attacking. After that, Alec goes behind the opponent's back, simultaneously inflicting a cut on his side with a sword. Rivier looks at the small cut and mockingly attacks the adventurer again, calling him a weakling. Alec manages to repel his attack with his sword. He manages to dodge the next attack into the wall. Rivier praises him, after which he attacks Alec again, saying that he has already lost anyway. He strikes, and at the moment it seems that it was fatal, but Alec managed to use the shield again. Yorha is happy to realize that Alec has been waiting for the right moment to use the shield all this time. After that, she actively encourages him to attack. Alec delivers one decisive blow with his sword right into River's body. He writhes in pain and clenches his teeth tightly. Rivier screams in pain, while randomly hitting the ground because he has lost an opponent. Alec finds himself behind him and is about to strike the opponent again, reminding him of his own words about losing. Rivier only has time to turn around as a new blow passes through his body, but much weaker than the previous one. Looking into Alec's hand, he sees that there is practically nothing left of his sword except the end of the broken hilt. The guildmaster looks at this with incomprehension, and Alec's body suddenly relaxes. He realizes that it was at this moment that he completely ran out of mana, after which he falls exhausted to the ground. He lies in a faint while Yorha looks at everything that is happening with excitement, waiting for words from the guildmaster, who only remains silent, frowning. Just as he is about to announce his verdict, someone interrupts him. A man in dark clothes and with blonde hair appeared in the arena, saying that he thought that Rivier had just decided to leave again. But it turned out that he was in the guild underground arena and was doing such interesting things. Ornis calls Riviera an old man and asks how he can even call himself an S-rank adventurer after that. Riviere tells him to shut up while he and Yorha look at the man incredulously. He finally turns his gaze to Ornist, saying that he can't tell him what to do, and anyway, the difference between him and Alec is pretty big, but nevertheless, he's pretty good. After that, he adds that they can take the pass. Ornist approaches the unconscious Alec and looms over him. He congratulates him with a grin as he won this battle. However, immediately after that, Ornist adds that Alec can't hear him right now and laughs. 4 people are still standing in the arena, which is slightly destroyed in some places and full of dust that has risen into the air. Yorha sat down next to Alec, trying to help him. Ornist said with a grin that Yorha was ruining all the fun. He adds that if she was better than him, then he would have joined her group. Yorha says with a straight face that it is strange to hear such words from a man who failed a skill test 4 years ago. Rivier? He's putting Yorka down. He also adds that even though he has won now, he would not be surprised if Alec could be on the same level as him in about 10 years. At this moment, a smug smile appears on the man's face. Upon hearing this, Ornest laughs. He is surprised by such a statement from a friend. He had never expected to hear such words from him. The young man clenches his fists, making fun of the Riviera, saying that the Riviera will be gone by then given his age, and he will live for a long time. The next moment, he gets terribly angry, asking why he gave Alec 10 whole years, when even now he can safely defeat Rivera in the same battle. Yorha does not like such words, and she asks both men to calm down so as not to develop the conflict further. After a while, all 4 of them left the arena and came to the house. It was a beautiful wooden building with a simple and cozy interior. A neat and comfortable staircase led to the 2nd floor to the door of the room. Alec was still unconscious. His body was still covered with abrasions and bruises from the last battle, and his clothes were stained and even torn in many places. Alex was carefully laid on a soft sofa and covered with a blanket over her stomach. Riviere said that the healers took good care of him, and now he needs to lie down and rest. The guildmaster tells the hero to lie down and rest. Yorha thanks him while she herself sat worriedly on her knees in front of Alec, waiting for him to wake up. Ornest was sitting relaxed on the same couch and at Alec's feet. He said he never would have thought that Alec would become an adventurer, at the same time looking down at him and smiling smugly. After that, his expression changes to a more friendly one, and he also adds that he's actually glad about it and asks how Yorha managed to persuade him. She honestly replies that she does not know. He only told her that a lot of things happened at his court. Yorha looks a little sad. At this time, Rivier sips something from a small glass, chuckling. He says he didn't expect anything else from Galdana's leadership. Ornest agrees with him, saying that a court magician has no place among commoners. Disgust appears on his face, and he says that they like to divide people by ancestry and status, and that one day people will get tired of it. He adds that, at least he hopes so. To this, Rivier says that he thinks otherwise, especially considering the fact that Alec, being a court magician, has not been able to influence the leadership for 4 years. Yorha suddenly smiles, and Ornest obviously doesn't like it for some reason. He viciously asks Yorha why she is smiling. Maybe some of his words seemed funny to her. She says that's not the case, and in fact she's just glad that everyone here is of the same opinion. In response, the guy jokingly takes Yorha's little hat and shows her his tongue, and she takes offense at him. Rivier ignores their pranks, saying that he remembered something while they were talking. He asked why Alec decided to become a court magician in the first place, and even worked there for 4 years. Ornest, with a relaxed face, replies that it was obviously about money. Rivier asks Yorh to explain, and his face shows that he clearly expected to hear a different answer. And then Yorha explains to him that Alec lost his mother as a child, and his father had a lot of problems. Speaking, Yorha recalls Alec in his student years, when he said with a bright and enthusiastic smile that if he became a court magician, then life would become easier for him and his father. After listening, Rivier carefully puts the glass with the unfinished contents on the table and talks in his mind about the money that Alec needed so much that he went to work as a court magician, and even for a long time. Suddenly, a panicked Misha bursts into the room, telling the guildmaster that they have problems. The girl looks quite worried. Yorha asks her what happened, but she doesn't explain anything, only saying that trouble has happened, and she urgently needs a guildmaster. However, she immediately falls silent when the guildmaster grabs her by the edge of her shirt, lifting her small and light body into the air. The girl did not expect such a turn of events. He carries a slightly dazed Misha with one hand, telling Yorha and Ornest that he will step away for a while. Before leaving, knowing Ornest, he always asks them not to touch the alcoholic beverages that are located in this room in an unlocked closet. Yorha curiously asks Ornest what he thinks are the problems in the guild. He nonchalantly replies that there was most likely another fight or something like that. At the same time, he ignored the words of the Riviera. He went to the cabinet with alcoholic beverages and looked at the contents. After that, he picked up one of the bottles and got rid of the cork with his finger. He decides to change the subject. Ornest drinks some alcohol, straight from the bottle, saying that if Yorha wants, he can tell her something else, since he knows a lot of things. There was a slightly sad expression on Yorh's face. After some time, after long conversations, Ornest was clearly shocked and upset by what he heard. He begins to tell Yorha very emotionally that the Crown Prince, judging by her stories, has completely lost his mind, since he forbids everyone except him to carry weapons, loading his subjects with luggage and appointing them responsible for the items. In addition, he does not allow the court magician to use magic at all. The young guy says very emotionally that this is wrong, and the Crown Prince has definitely gone crazy. Yorha also clearly doesn't like it, and adds that the Crown Prince also considers support magic useless, and says she has the same opinion. Upon hearing this, Ornest says that he did not know that Alec could use support magic. Yorha is surprised by this, and she reminds him that Alec has been using support magic since his studies at the academy. Then the guy decides to ask Yorh if Alec learned support magic from scratch, adding that he did not have the ability to do it. Yorha says with a smile that, on the contrary, it is very good, since his protective spells are at a very high level. A frowning and displeased expression appears on Ornest's face. He doesn't understand at all how the Crown Prince could treat Alec like that. Then Yorha says that she thinks they decided to kick him out of the group because they didn't want to see him as such a strong opponent. These words immediately infuriate Ornest. Suddenly, he gets up from his seat and runs to the window. He delivers a powerful punch to the window, which causes it to break and pieces of glass fly around the room. Yorha tried to shield herself from the flying shards while Ornest was too angry to pay attention to the many small cuts caused by the shards. At this moment, Alec slowly opens his eyes. After a few moments, he comes to his senses and seeing a guy in front of him, recognizes him as Ornest, and asks perplexedly what he is doing here. The anger disappears from Ornest's face when he notices that Alec has finally come to his senses. The young man asks the hero if he has really come to his senses. After a couple of moments, Alec stands up slightly and looks around. He tries to ask Yorh something, but continues to speak unintelligibly, and she interrupts him. She happily shows him his honestly earned pass. Alec is happy that now he will be able to go on adventures with her and her team, as well as go to the lower floors of the dungeon. However, Ornest interrupts him. He says Alec should wait, as they have something else they need to do. Alec doesn't understand what he means. The next second, Ornest, with a manic face, aggressively begins to tell that they must definitely take revenge and show everyone the revenge of the court magician Galdana, and that they will smash the prince's group to dust. Alec listens to this, covering his face with his hand. He asks Ornest to calm down. He also says that even though he is offended, he no longer cares about them. However, Ornest resolutely refuses, saying that they will definitely take revenge on them. Yorha says that by fighting with another group, they will break the rules and may end badly for them. Ornest asks what she means, reminding her that the Crown Prince and his group mistreated their friend. Yorha tries to say something back to him, but Alec decides to calm Ornest down on his own. He asks him to stop embarrassing his leader and that he is fine. Alec says that he is glad that he has become an adventurer, and he does not want to remember what happened anymore. Ornest is silent for a few seconds. Then he turns to Alec and says with a smile that it's good that he's happy to become an adventurer, because then they will become the best adventurers in the world. Alec doesn't quite understand what he means, so he just remains silent in response, and Ornest continues his monologue, saying that the whole world will know the power of the court magician, and that their whole group will definitely reach incredible heights. In addition, they will definitely become popular. Ornest said that he was more than satisfied with this arrangement of affairs, and had already completely given himself up to imagination. He even began to imitate aloud the pleas of lovers who desperately asked him for help while calling him master. At the same time, a joyful smile appears on his face, and he laughs. He turns to Alec and says with a smile that he can't wait for this, because then he will refuse the prince himself if anything happens. Alec says with a smile that if they are the best in the world, they could be even better than the prince's band. In the evening, Rivier was in one of the rooms and looked at Krista, sitting on the bed and covered with wounds and blood. He's asking, "Did anyone else come back besides her?" She doesn't answer anything, and he says that if the S-rank group couldn't handle it, then it's a big problem. He asks her what happened there, to which she says they need more people and strong people. Rivier was a little confused, not knowing what to say, after which he says that he needs her to help him with something. There is no more blood on Krista and her wounds have been patched up and bandaged. Later, many adventurers gathered in one room, including Yorha, Ornest, Krista, and Rivier. In the middle of the room was a small table with a map and many different records and instruments. Rivier looked around the room and asked where Alec was. Krista asks a question to make sure that Rivier is talking about Alec Jugret, the magician of the 5 colors. Ornest says he's surprised, as he didn't expect her to know Alec. The girl answers in the affirmative. Krista remembers hearing that Alec managed to defeat the 68th-floor boss, and his strategy was to hit 5 heads with different elements. Krista continues her story. They say that Alec did not just hit elements in each of the heads, he did it at the same time. It seemed to them that this was impossible, so they gave up. However, they later found out that one guy did it, and since then he's been called the Magician of 5 Colors. The people around were surprised to hear Krista's story about Alec. Then Rivier says that this nickname is different from the one he had at the academy. He even wondered how much he still didn't know about Alec. At this time, the Magician of the 5 Colors was in another room, holding several sheets of paper in his hands. There were still traces of the last battle on his face and clothes. A voice tells him that even if he tries to hide, he still won't succeed. This voice tells him that even if he tries to hide, he still won't succeed. This voice also asks why Alec hides his face. He doesn't say anything in response. Misha, who was also in the room at that moment, waved her hand in front of Alec. It seemed to her that he did not hear her, so she called him and told him that the meeting had already begun. Only then does Alec notice the girl. Alec tells her that A-rank adventurers have been invited to the meeting, and he is not one of them. Misha responds by saying that Alec may not be ranked, but they would still be glad to see him there. He hesitantly asks if she really thinks that. After these words, Alec remembers his previous band again, especially how much the Crown Prince tried to separate him and the others, and Alec constantly had to apologize for his presence. Because of such an unpleasant experience, Alec decides that it would be better for him to stay away from the others all the time, which is exactly what he realized as a court magician. He understands that this is true, but he is also well aware that he does not like it. Suddenly, a gloved hand reached out to Alec, who had closed his eyes. The girl touches his forehead and says that he has wrinkles, and he has already managed to age a little. She calls him by name while Alec looks in shock at the well-known figure ahead. After a second, he jumps up in surprise and steps back a little, as he clearly did not expect to see Klasia. He confusedly asks her when she arrived. She replies that he needs to be less distracted by books. She also says that it was Misha who told her that he was here. Alec was confused, not knowing what to say after meeting after so many years. He asks Klasia, a little confused and uncertain, how she is doing. In response, she repeats his question, while sighing resignedly. After that, she looks at her friend with a soft, friendly smile, and says that he better look at himself. The girl sees perfectly well that clearly not everything is good, judging by his appearance. He looks away guiltily, not knowing what to say in response. After that, Klasia points her hand at him and uses healing on Alec. While Alec is looking at his fully healed body, Klasia says she's not interested in where he's been or what he's been doing. However, she asks to tell her something bothers him, since she is good at healing magic. Alec is amused by how much his girlfriend worries about his condition that, as soon as she saw the wounds, she immediately asked to contact her. At one point, they are interrupted by a knock on the door, and Ornest bursts into the room and Yorha enters. Ornest is glad that they are finally done with the meeting, and Yorha notices Klasia. Ornest turns to Alec, reminding him that he wanted adventures and saying that they just have an errand from Rivier, whom Ornest calls an old man. Soon, the group of four finally set off on their first adventure together. They come to the Western Dungeon, because it was recently attacked. Ornest says that in the common people this dungeon is called the Tank Killer. Alec asks what this means, and then Yorha explains to him that healing magic does not work in this dungeon, but only potions. Then Alec looks at Klasia and asks what she's doing with him then. Klasia, clearly restraining her irritation, replies that she does not know herself. She looks askance at Ornest, saying that only the individual forced her to go with them, while insulting him in addition. He casually asks what she doesn't like and says that if she has any objections, then she'd better express them. Klasia and Ornest annoy each other even more with their words, after which they move into open conflict, starting to fight. Yorha grabs his head and demands that his friends calm down, otherwise they will be injured before entering the dungeon. She tries to get Alec to help her by asking him not to ignore her, but he just looks at it with a smile. He realizes that he missed this feeling. He decides to ask Yorh why they are going there, since Krista has returned. She replies that although Bloodflower is ranked 4th in the list of S-rank groups, they were attacked by a boss in the dungeon. Of the whole group, only Krista has returned, so they go to rescue the others. Ornest, lying on the ground with a huge bump on his forehead, says that they may not make it, since those adventurers are sitting on the 64th floor. Alec thinks about it, and says that in this case they need a core for a more comfortable, and most importantly, fast passage through the floors of the dungeon. After that, Yorha says with a smile that she has it. After that, she rummages in her backpack and takes out a small ball on which various wavy patterns are painted. She says that it drops out of bosses and allows you to skip battles with them, so it is an indispensable item if an adventurer wants to go deeper. Yorha says they have 52 more of these cores, but Krista has also given them her own, and then they will be able to get to the 64th floor in a moment. At this time, Klasia was proudly sitting on the defeated Ornest, lying face down on the ground. Alec curiously asks Yorh why such a seemingly difficult task as rescuing from a dangerous S-rank dungeon is assigned to some A-rank group. She replies that there are 2 reasons for this. The first is that the guildmaster himself chose the group for this task. After these words, Clausia reminds that Yorha forgot to tell about his cover, since he is with them now. Alec just smiles at this, saying it's pretty funny. The young man is smiling quite cheerfully and happily. He exchanges glances with Clausia. She notices a soft smile on his face and smiles back softly. Noticing her gaze, Alec covers his mouth with his hand, slightly embarrassed. Upon hearing these words, Ornest immediately stands up and asks with displeasure what it was just now and why Alec is so calm. Alec doesn't understand what's wrong, and Clausia asks, perplexed, why he should be angry. Alec says that his skills are already much worse than they once were, and the guildmaster chose only 3 of them. He realizes that he is a cover himself, since he doesn't think he should be around them anyway. Ornest then asks who else could be with them if not him, since they can't count on anyone else besides Alec. The stronger the group needs a strong magician. Yorha agrees with his words. She says that the guildmaster said he would give them the stones and the task only if Alec returned, and the 3 of them probably couldn't have done it. Alec is slightly surprised by what he has heard, and Clausia laughs slightly at his reaction. She asks him if he doesn't think the guildmaster is counting on him too. Ornest grabs him by the shoulder and tells him that it's time for them to become legendary again. Clausia notes that it was quite a long time ago, and Yorha agrees with her, saying that she no longer even remembers who said such a thing about them. Ornest resolutely says that now that they have graduated from the academy, it's time for them to make a name for themselves. 4 adventurers happily announce the beginning of their endless adventures. The group was able to successfully enter the dungeon and advance to the lower floors. They were about to be attacked by a whole crowd of armed animated skeletons, but Ornest managed to deal with an entire crowd with one powerful spear blow. He estimates the 64th floor with a grin, hinting at its simplicity. Ornest continued to lead the way, brandishing his spear, while Yorha walked behind him and set fire to the remnants of the monsters with her wand. Meanwhile, Alec and Clausia were walking behind. Alec notes that Ornest seems to be raging again, and that he really hasn't changed at all since his days at the academy. Clausia is analyzing the weapons at this time. She says that this is not an ordinary spear, but an almostega, and it is quite difficult to control. Then the girl asks the hero if he thinks that this ancient artifact is perfect for a man like Ornest. Alec shouts at Ornest, asking if he can help him, and he agrees, saying that he only needs to deal with one monster, who at that time was trying to stab Ornest with a weak sword. Ornest delivers one powerful blow, completely shattering the monster's body using his artifact. A few hours earlier, the group had stopped at a safe place to eat. They sat comfortably and ate hot, freshly cooked soup together. Yorha says that according to rumors, the boss of the 64th floor of the dungeon is the Reaper of Death. She also adds that no matter what Alec says, he actually helps them a lot. Ornest confirms her words, saying that it would be difficult for them without him. Alec, in turn, does not understand what he has done that could help them a lot. Ornest also adds that their words do not mean at all that they could not have reached this floor without him. Clausia agrees with him, noting that Ornest is always eager to fight no matter what. However, she also adds that the point is not the floor itself. She is more interested in whether they can handle the boss. In the end, the S-rank group was destroyed by him. A sudden sense of threat from behind brought Alec back to reality from his memories. He instantly turns around and uses a lightning bolt on the enemy. On the hero's face was written the intention to destroy his invisible opponent. However, as soon as the spell was dispelled, it became clear that there was no one at the place where Alec was aiming. Clausia asks what's wrong with him. He looks around and concludes that it wasn't his imagination, after all. He looks around warily, saying that he feels something strange. Ornest brandishes his spear, asking what exactly Alec is talking about. He, in turn, only stared silently at the clouds of dust and smoke that rose from his attack. After a few moments, he finally noticed how a pair of eyes and a vague silhouette appeared and immediately disappeared in a puff of smoke. At the same moment, Alec picks up a sword. At the same moment, he confidently strikes the air, namely at the place where he noticed the silhouette. The others noticed that his sword did not pass through the air, but ran into an obstacle. Alec realized that his hunch that their enemy was invisible had been confirmed, and the Reaper of Death had finally revealed himself. It was a monster whose skeleton was covered with a thin layer of skin. and whose body was covered with a long, torn cloak. The Reaper held a large black scythe in his hands. Ornis stands on the remains of the monsters and confidently stands right in front of the Reaper, saying that the dead, it turns out, can also come to life. Alec shouts at him not to get ahead, risking his safety. The Reaper swings his scythe again to strike, but Alec manages to repel his attack with his sword and stands back-to-back with Ornist. Alec angrily asks Ornist to listen to his warnings at least once and not take any chances. He replies that there is nothing to worry about since everything will definitely be fine. He said that he had heard of invisible enemies before, but did not think that he would ever meet such. Ornist continues to destroy all monsters with the same confidence with the help of his artifact. He remembers that once a court magician called him a genius, which means he still has to give him freedom of action. Alec remembers that trust is something he hasn't seen in 4 years. Since that time, for him it's just words. In response to Ornist's words, Alec resolutely strikes directly at the Reaper, cutting it in half, irritably shouting at Ornist that he should stop working alone. Ornist looks at this with a smile. Yorha is worried, and Klasha is just watching what is happening. Since she can't help in any way anyway, Alec turns to Yorha and, seeing her expression, thinks that she found some of his words funny. Yorha tries to deny his assumption. Klasha intervenes in the conversation, saying that she wants to scold Alec a little, since Ornist, although not so smart, will not act recklessly. Alec agrees with her, and then he grabs Ornist's outstretched hand to help him up. Alec tells him that he can do whatever he wants, but when they get out, they will definitely talk. In response, Ornist laughs and says that they need to survive first. After that, the group is surrounded by monsters again. Ornist says irritably that this is a very problematic floor. Klasha says that the floor is not particularly difficult, but they will need a lot of time to clean up. Yorha says that their goal here is salvation, not cleansing. Klasia replies that she knows this herself, but asks to tell it to Ornist, who cannot calm down in any way. When he hears this, he says that he is not a fool, but just obsessed with cleaning up. He says that if they don't want to, then he will figure it out himself, while resolutely moving into battle. And Alec tries to keep up with him, and will also attack the monsters using a lightning bolt. In the end, the group managed to deal with all the monsters, at least those that gathered around them. Klasia searches for something in her backpack, and Ornest stands with one foot on the remains of the monsters again. He turns to Alec and asks why he uses a lightning bolt all the time. The latter looks at him with incomprehension, and Ornist continues, saying that he looks so much like an old man, referring to the Riviera. He asks why he shouldn't use some other spells. This question reminds Alec of those times again, when he was in a group with the Crown Prince. Back then, Alec kept trying to warn the Crown Prince not to fight alone against dangerous opponents. He said he would be able to deal with them himself, but the latter did not listen to him. It was since then that Alec started using Thunderbolt, as it requires a minimum amount of preparation time to use it. It is also not particularly visible, so he could covertly use it to protect others. Alec refuses to answer the question and turns away from Ornist, saying that they need to move on. Ornist is not satisfied with this, and he tries to stop Alec, asking if he is offended by him. He responds sarcastically, hinting that he is not offended, but simply does not want to talk. The conversation is interrupted when a strong shaking sweeps through the dungeon, which even caused the floor and walls to shake. The group members began to look around warily, not understanding where the shaking was coming from. Alec gets down on one knee and puts his hand on the floor. He says it's somewhere nearby, on this floor. Ornist is obviously happy about this. He quickly picks up his spear, saying with a smile that it will be fun now, after which he turns to Yorha. She immediately understands without words what he wants from her. She says in disbelief that she doesn't see anyone, but still agrees to do what Ornist asks her to do. He gets ready, gets down on one knee and puts both hands on the ground, as if preparing to run at speed. The members of the group stand side by side so that the effect of the support magic spreads to everyone. As soon as Yorha is done with the spell, Ornist immediately rushes forward, using super acceleration. Despite the fact that all the team members accelerated, he still pulled far ahead, leaving his comrades behind. There are hot shoe marks on the places on the floor where he stepped. Alec is surprised by such power, and Yorha says, with a smile, that when Ornist is serious, few people can compete with him. Alec then says that he doesn't agree with her. He believes that he is like this precisely because of the magic of Yorha's support, praising her as the leader of the group. Yorha is embarrassed by such words and sheepishly scratches the back of her head, trying to politely refuse the compliment. At this time, Claudia and Alec notice something ahead together. In the end, they ran to a doorway at the end of the corridor, passing through which they come to a cliff, on the edge of which Ornest is conveniently located. From below, in a gigantic, desolate area, a huge monster covered in scales and resembling a lizard was chasing someone. Alex looks at what was happening below, while the young man running away from the monster is suffocating. The young man finds the strength to scream, begging Ornest to help him as soon as possible, while he ran with all his might, fearing for his life. Ornest, surprisingly, looked at everything that was happening quite calmly. He looked at the guy without a drop of regret, saying that he should run faster, otherwise the monster would be able to catch up with him. The young man continues to run away from the monster, while pleading even louder for Ornest to help him, since he could no longer run. Alec confusedly asks his friend what is going on here. Ornest explains that this young man is Loki Silperia, and he has angered the local monsters. He also adds that in the Blood Flower, Loki is the biggest problem in their rescue group. Loki takes a deep breath and shouts at Ornest to remember that if he dies, he will come to him in his dreams every night. Ornest says that Loki has a nickname that reflects his unpleasant nature. Loki continues his speech that after death, he will come to Ornest and whisper all sorts of nasty things in his ear. However, he is interrupted as he stumbles and falls while running. This fall looks like an absolute failure of a young man. Alec is scared, as he is sure that now the guy will definitely be doomed to be eaten by monsters. But Claudia calms him down. She explains that Loki just has this fighting style. The fallen Loki grins as he feels the monster getting closer to him. The monster, actively approaching to help this victim, did not notice the magic circle and stepped on it. Because of this, the monster's body was pierced through by a ray of powerful magic that appeared from the magic circle. The monster screams in pain, while Loki covers his head with his hands. Alec looks with delight at how Loki used magical magic to make a trap for the monster. A moment later, the monster's body is pierced by several of the same lasers, passing through the monster's body. The creature screams in pain again, while Loki laughs viciously at the unwise creature trapped in the trap. He calls the creature stupid and says he won't come across it now. After these words, the monster opens its mouth slightly, and a magic circle begins to form there. The monster opens its mouth wider and wider, which is why the magic circle increases, and the monster prepares for a powerful attack. Loki looks at this, realizing that he will not be able to escape or dodge such an attack. He looks at the monster with a sad smile and doesn't even move. He thinks that victory was very close. The monster reaches its peak and delivers a powerful blow with a beam of magic from its mouth. But a moment before Ornest manages to carry Loki out of the affected area. Ornest, with an angry but still friendly smile, says that Loki should thank him well later. He also remembers that, besides, he told Loki to run a little more, which he did not do. Loki said nothing in response, and only looked at Ornest with a smile, while his whole body was covered in sweat from running in fear for a long time. Ornest adds that he kept his promise and took Loki away. Meanwhile, Alec is watching the monster. After his massive attack, there is a long and wide trail of the destructive magic attack that he had used just a few seconds ago. Judging by the look of the monster preparing for the next attack, it was clear that he was clearly not going to give up yet. Alec looks at the massive monster in front of him without a drop of fear, thinking that the game has begun. The action is transferred to the dungeon of the capital of the Kingdom of Gildan on the 30th floor. The Crown Prince's group, which was doing a mission there, is running away from two bloodthirsty monsters that look like worms. The Crown Prince wonders why all this is happening to him. Regulus was running ahead of everyone, and Lenny was running behind them. He angrily asked her what she was doing at all, and demanded that she use her magic as soon as possible. Panting from running, she tries to answer the prince, but he does not want to listen to her and demands that she use magic no matter what. Laziness has to follow the orders of the prince, the leader of the group. She focuses and summons a magic circle, trying to use attacking magic to attack monsters. However, no matter how hard she tries, something prevents her. She gives up and desperately tells the prince that she is completely unable to use not only attacking magic, but also any magic in principle. The prince asks in perplexity what the reason is, but obviously no one can give him an answer. At some point, the prince stops and turns towards the monsters. He says that they have already come this far, and since all other methods are useless, he will use his sword skills and cut down the enemies. The prince resolutely strikes the monster right on the head, intending to deal with it with one blow. However, as soon as he strikes, the prince's sword only bounces off the monster like a rubber toy. The monster remains unharmed. The sword does not even scratch it, and there is nothing to say about wounds incompatible with life. For a few moments, the prince stands in a stupor and just looks at the monster, not understanding what happened, as he clearly expected a different development of events. He also waits for a few seconds, looking at the immobilized prince. The monster is in a kind of stupor from not understanding what happened, after which he abruptly decides to attack. The worm drives its head into the ground with all its might right in front of the crown princes, which causes the prince to fly back due to a strong shockwave and falls right on his back. Lenny excitedly runs up to him to make sure his highness is not hurt. While the prince is injured, she takes command and orders the rest of the group to grab the wounded prince's body and continue escaping from the monsters. One member of the group lifts the prince's body above his head and continues to run forward. The wounded and crippled prince, now with a big bump on his forehead, thought about how it happened. He doesn't understand how it happened at all, remembering how he used to instantly deal with any monsters, and his defense was impeccable. And now he can hardly even hold a sword in his hands. The prince cannot understand at all what has changed in him. Suddenly, a realization comes to him. He realizes that everything went wrong after he kicked that magician out of his group and stripped him of his status as a court magician. After a little reflection, he comes to the conclusion that the magician is to blame for everything, who of course put a curse on him as revenge. Alec stands on the edge of a cliff, watching a massive monster appear in front of him. The monster looked like a lizard, but its scales looked more like thick armor, which in many places managed to crack the light, as well as a large amount of smoke. Alec manages to react when the monster lifts its massive limb and air into the air and strikes with devastating force at the place where he, his group, and Loki were standing. Alec manages to use the shield, and Yorha, standing behind him, also tries to hide from the monster's attacks with her wand. After repelling the attack, Alec decides to use his thunderbolt on the monster. However, he doesn't even have time to pronounce the name of the spell, as the monster runs past him and Yorha, completely ignoring him. Yorha doesn't understand what's going on, so she decides that the monster just decided to escape. However, Alec, turning around, realizes in which direction the monster is running and that it is clearly not running away. Alec manages to shout out Ornest's name, which makes him pay attention to the approaching threat. Alec shouts at him not to let go of Loki and run away. Ornest reacts in time and starts running away from the monster as fast as possible while carrying Loki with one hand. While the monster is distracted, Alec decides to take his chance. Alec uses a thunder charge on the monster. Yorh says that he hit a fast-moving monster with his attack. However, Alec is in no hurry to rejoice, as he realizes that something is wrong, as the monster does not slow down its speed. Ornest turns to look at the monster chasing him. He realizes that he was completely oblivious to Alec's attack. He continued to run after his victim at the same speed as clouds of smoke peeled off his armored skin. Ornest, with a grin and without an ounce of fear, calls the monster persistent. Klasia, looking at this, sighs in resignation and calls him an idiot. However, in the next few seconds, she is already screaming in fright, as she realizes that Ornest is running towards them, leading a giant monster. Without slowing down, Ornest takes Loki in one hand and throws his body towards his friends. As luck would have it, he falls right on the angry Klasia, and in a rather embarrassing position, which angers her even more. Klasia even insults Loki while he lies on top of her, not moving, blushing deeply. At this time, Ornest grabs his artifact and resolutely, without hesitating for a second, went straight to meet the monster. He aggressively shouted at the monster to attack, while heading straight forward into the giant open mouth. He decides to attack Ornest from above. He quickly raises his massive paw and hits the ground, intending to crush his victim with his weight. While Ornest distracts the monster with his presence, Yorha and Alec block Klasia and Loki so that they can safely leave. Loki is not able to move fast on his own, So Clausia helps him with this, taking him by the shoulder and dragging him along. Ornest does not even think about giving up at this time, literally ignoring the furious attacks of the monster. With deft, quick movements, Ornest manages not only to stand on the side of the monster so that he loses sight of it. Ornest managed to cling to one of the chains around the monster's neck while still holding his artifact with his other hand. He treats the situation at ease, telling the monster not to regret it later when he is hacked. Ornest, dangling from the monster's chain, takes the time to make sure his companions are okay by asking how they are. Yorha loudly informs him so that he can hear from afar that Loki is safe. She also tells Ornest that he should gently leave there and move away from the monster, as she and Alec are going to finish him off, while hurrying him along. After that, Yorha stands next to Alec, and they prepare to deal with the monster with one blow. Yorha picks up her wand and magic appears around her, and her hair and cloak begin to flutter due to the strong flow of magic. Yorha is completely focused. She uses an increase in strength, endurance, speed, flexibility, dexterity, strengthening of the 5 senses and magic on Ornest. Running with all his might, Ornest finds the perfect moment. After that, he jumps on the monster's head, and with one powerful blow, plunges the spear into its head, piercing its thick armor. The monster screams furiously in pain as Ornest pulls the spear out of the wound and liquid begins to flow from it in a copious fountain. Ornest manages to grab one of the chains in flight so as not to fall down. However, he was unlucky, and the old, rusty chain that he grabbed breaks a second later and Ornest begins to fly down. However, he does not have time to collide with the ground. More precisely, he is prevented from doing so by the monster, who, noticing the victim flying in the air, instantly strikes Ornest right in the air. He has no way to resist, so his body flies uncontrollably to the side. Due to the impact, many abrasions, open wounds, and, most likely, fractures appear on his body. Yorha is terribly scared when she sees what happened to her friend and comrade. She wants to do something to help protect him, since he is no longer able to fight. But the monster does not allow her to do this. After Ernesto, it turned its attention to Yorha, intending to crush her with one of its massive paws. However, Yorha manages to react in time and creates a round shield around himself, which the monster wraps around with its paw. Yorha holds the shield with great difficulty, while mentally begging Alec to hurry up. By this time, Loki had already woken up. He'd been watching the scene for some time. After a while, he says he can't believe his eyes, so returns to Clausia, who is still busy taking him to a safer place than the epicenter of the battle, helping him walk, whether he imagined it or what he sees is true. Clausia does not understand what he means, and therefore asks what he is talking about. Loki explains that he was referring to the fact that their old team is back together after 4 whole years. As he spoke, Loki looked at Alec, who was gathering his thoughts at the time. There were only concentrated thoughts in his head about what he needed to imagine, draw, and depict in his mind. Closing his eyes, he concentrated only on his thoughts, abstracting from external events and sounds. He was thinking that he should never stop. He realizes that it is thanks to Yorha that he is here right now, and that he really owes her a lot. He knows and firmly believes that he must protect her and his group, his friends and comrades, who also cherish him very much. Alec spreads his arms. He thinks again that he can't stop. All his thoughts are focused only on imagining, deducing, drawing, and depicting. Looking at this, Loki smiles and lets out a short laugh. He says Alec is a pretty dangerous opponent. He says that if a magician can make 3 magic circles, that's very good. If he can draw 5 magic circles, then he is considered a genius, and Alec was able to draw an incredible number of circles. At this time, Ornest found the strength to stand up again and continue attacking the monster. He struck him on the tail with a spear, literally preventing the tail from rising from the ground, after which the monster emits a monstrous scream. Ornest wonders how many circles the hero has created. Ornest reminds the monster of his own words that he should not be offended when he starts to chop him up. However, he also adds that it is pointless for him to say anything, since the monster is going to die anyway. Alec waves his arms like a conductor in front of an orchestra, and the spell goes into effect. All those huge numbers of magic circles are simultaneously emitting a lightning bolt after Alec has used spell copying. It was thanks to him that he was able to create so many magic circles. The body of the giant monster is instantly pierced by hundreds of lightning bolts, giving no chance of survival. Many magic circles appeared around the huge monster on the battlefield, while Alec, standing in a protective shell in the midst of clouds of steam and light, applied thunderbolt magic using the spell copying skill. Frowning and fought, and from the blinding bright light from the lightning, Alec believes that he succeeded because he created more than 25 circles and cast a spell on them. He is sure that after such a thing, the monster should not even have the strength to move. Suddenly, the hefty monster makes a dash away from the created spell and Alec froze in shock. Alec is surprised at how much strength and endurance this seemingly clumsy monster has to leave the electric field so easily. The toothy mouth of the monster threatens Alec, moving quickly to where the magician is standing. Alec is outwardly very calm and even confident. He stood in a fighting stance, folded his arms to attack, and waits for the horned monster, because he is not finished with him yet. Test, whose face is stained with mud, loudly shouted for Clausia to tie up this monster. A little further away on the battlefield, the figure of Clausia is visible, raising her weapon to strike at the horned monster. Clausia habitually tells Onesta not to scream, because she herself knows what to do. She picks up her bow and pulls the string, putting an arrow in. She is very focused and ready to shoot an arrow right on target. A huge magic circle appeared from the flash above the monster. It was Clausia who used a rain of arrows. Many arrows rush from the magic circle directly at the monster and strike it with lightning speed with many blows, sticking into the skin. The monster lets out a loud scream from the impact of the arrows. However, that's not all, because now it's Yorhi's turn to attack the monster too. She smiles and confidently prepares to attack, raising her magic staff. Yorha uses a binding spell and glowing chains appear from all sides out of nowhere, which wrap around a huge monster with burning eyes and arrows sticking out of its skin. Yorha really hopes that the bonds she has caused will stop the monster. The monster is immobilized by the bonds that Yorha created, and it roars. He sees that the enemy is bound and decides to strike again. He swings his weapon and makes a powerful throw. The blow reaches the monster, and it screams that the big guy got his way. But the monster is still not defeated, and is clearly ready to do something against the heroes. Suddenly, a new magic circle appeared, and then another and another. Alec used an attack called the four-sided battle seal. The monster is surrounded. Alec is in a fighting stance. The monster gathers all its strength, and with a powerful roar and bright light breaks the bonds on the toothy mouth and quite easily repels Alec's four-sided battle seal. Alec stands in a defensive stance, covering himself with his hands. The monster is very strong. Alec looks at the monster in amazement, which continues to spew sounds out of itself. These sounds carry far across the battlefield and reach Loki, who is sitting wearily behind a small hill. Loki stares intently at the battle between Alec and the monster. Alec stands in front of the monster, which continues to roar, rippling Alec's clothes and hair. Alec is amazed at how tenacious the monster turned out to be, but it won't be for long as he thinks. Alec stretches out his hand in the direction of the monster, preparing a new attack. Alex mentally hopes that his new attack will definitely work. At the same time, he remembers a blonde man asking a guy if he was interested in magic. The man's face is impossible to see because of the bangs, but he is smiling slightly. Against the background of a brick wall, a teenager with black hair and fishing gear in his hands stands in front of a blonde man and looks at him in surprise. Alec remembers that it was he who told him about the special magic. Someone's hand creates a slow magical action. Alec knows that there were only two people at Galdan Academy who naturally had a unique gift for magic. It was someone whose genius Alec Eagle respects, and another person. And this man is Alec himself. From Alec's memories, the action returned to the battlefield with the monster, where it suddenly gave out a powerful light strike towards Alec, and he instantly created a reflecting shield that successfully repelled the monster's attack. The power of their battle sends air currents flying in different directions. One of them almost knocked Yorha down, but she stuck her staff into the ground and held on. She squinted, because this is the reflection spell that made Alec famous at the academy. Alec, raising his hand in a defensive movement, bravely stands in front of the monster spewing blows. Flashes of light and air currents fly around him on the battlefield in all directions. It's amazing how strong Alec Jugret is. Suddenly, Alec no doubt charged towards the monster, and Yorha thinks that now she wants to know a lot more about her teammate. Alec's clothes and hair are flying from running. Taking a defensive stance, Alec confidently called on Helios to burn the monster down. 4 magic circles formed around the monster, from which a column of fire began to beat. Rising up and twisting among themselves, this fire completely enveloped the monster. An incredibly powerful scream rang out across the entire battlefield, and the monster gradually loses its strength in the fire caused by Alec's spell. Alec himself stands nearby and quietly and silently watches what is happening. He is confident in his spells. A bright fire devours the monster, engulfing it completely, so that it is almost invisible to the smoke and flames. Alec stands quietly and watches as his flame destroys the monster of the dungeon. Seeing that the monster was defeated, Alec turned around and began to calmly walk away from the place of battle, but suddenly it would seem the defeated monster moved its huge paw, trying to reach the magician. Alec turned around, and then suddenly, Onseish makes a combat jump on the moving monster, swinging his weapon to deal him a deafening blow. The fight is over, but for some reason the monster is still trying to get Alec with its creepy paw. With a powerful blow, Onseish professionally dissects the monster lying on the ground, separating its head from its body. He lands deftly on both feet after the attack. Alec is delighted and surprised by his abrupt attack, and at the same time, he smiles at Banished. He ate, made a face, and said that he had his own personal scores with this monster. Alec is grateful to Onas for his support, and Onas thinks that Alec was very good himself. But nothing less was expected from the two of them. The guys say in chorus that they are geniuses. Yorha and Classia, who heard this conversation, laugh. Yorha praises the guys for their good work, and Classia adds that now Alec and Onseish will work for 4. Honest objects. Believing that the girls did nothing while the battle was going on, the action shifts to a coastal street where there are low, neat stone houses. A black-haired teenager waves to a blonde man in a raincoat who is walking along the street along the water to meet him. The atmosphere is very peaceful. Somewhere in the dark, someone hears the words that this someone should focus well and then start breathing slowly. And when this happens, a person just needs to start opening his eyes a little bit. Standing on the street, a blonde man, standing behind a black-haired teenager and holding him by the shoulders, gives him the command to act. The teenager, with his arms outstretched, shouts out the name of the attack and fires a shot with fiery spikes. A suspended round shooting target is hit by fiery spikes, right in the center. It smokes and sways, and a teenager, with black hair, joyfully clenches his fists, because he did everything perfectly. The blonde man's name is Eldus, and the teenager happily boasts that he has finally succeeded. There are several round targets dangling from a crossbar nearby. They are still burning and smoking. Eldus sees perfectly well that the targets are hit. The black-haired teenager believes that today's spell was difficult, and is very glad that he was able to learn it in just a day. He smiles contentedly. Eldus agrees with him, but clarifies that people usually learn this spell for a month or even longer. The teenager is inspired by the fact that he coped so quickly, and he wants to learn even more information from Eldus. But then Eldus says that's enough for today, and that they will continue their studies tomorrow. He slowly puts on his raincoat, a view of the sky and the roofs of neat stone houses. The teenager is unhappy with the end of classes and whines, and Eldus comforts him, saying that he also needs to rest sometimes. Instead of studying, he invites the teenager to go fishing with him. Circles move away from the fishing line in the water. The teenager looks intently at the water and says through his teeth that he wants to know more spells. Eldus, whose face has finally appeared from under his hair, is thoughtfully silent in response. As expected, the black-haired teenager is Alec. He and Eldus are sitting back-to-back by the water, and each has a fishing rod in their hands. Eldus calls Alec by name and says that he has a natural talent for magic. Alec looks at Eldus in surprise. Closing his eyes, Eldus calmly says that even if he does not teach Alec magic, he will still become an excellent magician, so therefore he can afford to just go with the flow. It seems that Eldus is a little tired of thinking. Alec stares at his teacher, Eldus, with disbelief. He thinks it's very strange and doesn't understand why then Eldus is now teaching him all sorts of different magic spells. View of the platform by the water surrounded by trees. Eldus wanted to say something, but then a fish pecked at him, and he joyfully shouts to Alec, asking along the way how he is doing with his fishing rod. But Alec replies that he doesn't understand, because he hasn't been fishing before. The daily life of Eldaz and Alec in the city was quite active. Eldaz diligently taught Alec magic, and in their free time in the summer, they fished and enjoyed the catch. And in winter, they made snowmen and carelessly played snowballs. A view of the sky and the crowns of trees. A street by the water. Alec and Eldis standing in front of him. Alec is sad because his teacher and friend Eldis is leaving the capital, which means they will most likely never see each other again. Handsome, but sadly smiling Eldis looking slightly to the side. He asks young Alec never to become a court magician. Adult Alec remembers that these were the parting words of his teacher Eldas. Standing at the table with books, Alec Eagle continues to remember that when he entered the Academy of Magic, he found out that his teacher Eldas was also a graduate of it. He was the best in his class and then became a court magician. But still, he's gone. Alec could never forget the face of teacher Eldas. It was sad and lonely, and even his voice sounded desperate to Alec. He remembered telling his team at the academy that he wanted to become a court magician and leave them. The action returns to the current time, where someone claps their hands. It turns out that this is Loki, who has recovered from the battle and is addressing the legendary group. He is quite handsome. The whole group is standing in front of him. Loki clarifies whether the magician is a court magician standing here. Loki knows all about them, and with a sly smile continues to say that the court magician killed the Hydra, and Loki himself considered it fiction. Alec corrects, saying that he is no longer a court magician. Loki is shocked and asks what happened. Alec doesn't want to talk. Loki, in his manner, looking at the guys and continuing to slyly squint, clarifies how Alec thinks. Why did Galdana's nobility let him off the service so easily and did not even detain him? Alec thought about it. Meanwhile, Loki has already switched to Yorha. He actively thanks her for his rescue and climbs in with hugs, promising that he and the leader of their group will definitely pay her back. Yorha, unhappy with such attention, tells Loki to leave her alone. Loki, without stopping smiling, asks if Alec's team has some potions. He asks to share them. Onest immediately makes a face and asks why they should share something with Loki and show such generosity. Loki, as usual, mysteriously grinning, replies to others that, in fact, the fight is not over yet, and that the floor boss is also waiting for them ahead. Onest, becoming serious and frowning, asks Loki about what he just heard from his mouth. Alec and Onest are shocked, because usually there should be only one boss in a dungeon on a floor, and this rule has never been violated in a dungeon before. Then Loki retorts and asks them where did he get such data from, and why is he still alive? Classia looks thoughtfully at Loki and wonders if she should destroy him right now. Loki, with an ingratiating smile, begins to persuade her in every possible way, because he put his whole soul into his proposal. Suddenly, someone splashed some liquid in Loki's face. Loki is so surprised that he's stunned into silence as the liquid drips from his face and hair. Next to him stands Onest with a stone mine and holds a vessel in his hands. Then he smiles cunningly. It was he who splashed the potion that Loki had just asked for so much. Loki begins to say with a smile that he always knew that he was the best. Wedis gets angry and demands that Loki start talking about the case. Alec asks Yorhi what's wrong with them. She wearily replies that Loki and Onest behave like this every time they meet. Classia decides to intervene in the dispute between Loki and Onest, and also demands that Loki start talking about another boss. Classia does not intend to joke and Loki understands this. Still with drops on his face, Loki, smiling slyly, agrees to the story. Loki, instantly becoming businesslike and collected, informs the surprise team that the new floor boss is as dead as the first one, but at the same time he is completely armored. However, there is no one alive inside that sinister armor with a horn helmet and chains. Classia thoughtfully clarifies that then it is not a dead man, but rather a living armor. Loki is not very sure about this. The only thing he managed to understand is that the new boss is not being taken by any physical attacks, and then Loki turns to the surprised Alec. Loki suddenly hands Alec a small magic staff, rather like a magic wand, which looks rather nondescript, and with a constant smile on his face, says that he can entrust this valuable item only to him, Alec. Alec is surprised and at first does not know what kind of object it is, but perhaps he guessed its nature. Meanwhile, Loki says that he is sure that Alec fights well with weapons, so he should use this item when the boss comes closer. Loki says that Alec shouldn't have any problems fighting the floor boss one-on-one if Alec has this item with him. For a moment, Loki remembers Alec's recent powerful attack on his former boss and is sure that he will cope. Alec still does not trust Loki's judgment and asks why he is so confident in his words. Loki smiles and reminds him that his class is support magic. So he's just doing his job, and that with this artifact, Alec will definitely defeat the boss. The artifact in Alec's hands suddenly began to sparkle and turned into a sword. This is Schwartz's sword, a sword that cuts through the earth and the heavens. And now, this sword belongs to Alec. Surprised by what is happening, Alec looks at his beautiful sword in amazement. However, the Adventure Seekers team is not thrilled. One Test frowns. He is sure that Loki is acting too suspiciously. Yorha agrees and, looking seriously, asks Loki what he's up to and why he's sending Alec to fight the boss. Loki, as always, cunningly looking at the team of his companions and folding his fingers near his face, answers Yorha quite directly that he gave Alec an artifact just to find out exactly how strong Alec Jugret is in close combat without magic. Klasia is also very surprised. After all, simple force without the use of magic cannot destroy the undead, especially the floor boss. Then why does that sly Loki say that Alec can't use magic? Loki couldn't help but laugh out loud. Standing in front of honest Yorha, Klasia, and Alec, who is still holding the artifact named Schwartz sword in his hands, Loki laughs smugly and tells the rest of the group that he really likes such vivid performances. Loki is deservedly a master at planning battles, intrigues, and actions. And all of them, the whole team of heroes, fell for Loki's tricks. And now, smiling cunningly, Loki believes that they have no choice but to do everything as he planned. Loki, having finished his speech, effectively crossed his arms over his chest and continues to stand in front of Alec and the rest of the guys, demonstrating how pleased he is with himself. Alec clarifies that he really won't be able to use magic in a boss fight. Alec agrees that perhaps ancient relics would be effective, but they have to deal with a deadly spirit that is not physically effective. Loki clarifies if Alec heard what he just said. Then suddenly, Onest asks what Loki knows about Alec, holding out his hand. Poking Loki in the forehead with his finger reminds him that Loki is nobody here, that he does not command here. Loki is generally unperturbed and asks Onest to stop pushing him so hard. Loki, confidently looking forward, took Onesta's hand away from his face, asks everyone to calm down and listen to him carefully once again. He reminds that he does not ask the team not to use magic from the beginning of the fight to the end, only during the boss fight. Yorha thinks about it and tries to figure out what the treacherous Loki just said out loud. He probably suggests that the team think that Alec is a swordsman, not a magician, and apply his skills in the nearest battle precisely as a combat member of the group. Loki again avoids a direct answer, saying that he will not force them to do anything against their will. But he asks the team to fight with the help of an artifact named Schwartz's sword, until he, Loki, gives them some special signal. That's all. Loki adds that the team will then have to end the boss battle with a magic strike. Loki asks Alec if everything is clear. Alec looks thoughtfully at the sword he still holds in his hands. Suddenly, Alec's agreed and Loki is pleased. A view of the entire team from above. Loki left Alec and approached Klasia. Now he asks her for a little help with magic. Klasia asks again. Loki confirmed that he needs magic, because he does not want to go on foot to search for a large dungeon. Loki, with a show of suffering on his face, clarifies that he is going to use spatial magic, and it requires a lot of mana, and he will not be able to do it alone. Klasia chuckles skeptically. Obviously, she doesn't really believe him. Standing next to Onest and Yorha, Klasia gloomily clarifies that spatial magic is a state secret. He is surprised by the seriousness of the question, and Yorha pretends not to hear anything, and only Loki laughs contentedly. He thinks that everything is fine. Loki is in his repertoire. He gives a thumbs up and confidently declares that no one will ever know about it. Klasia, Yorha, and Onest look at Loki gloomily and incredulously and remain silent, not daring to say anything else to this cunning Loki. Atop view of the entire team of heroes. Loki, standing in front of the guys, asks what kind of gloomy faces they have, because from now on, he is just as guilty as everyone else. The team silently analyzes the words of the cunning Loki. not knowing exactly how to react to them. With ostentatious friendliness, Loki hugs Klasha and Onesta by the shoulders, and with seeming resignation says that from now on he is in the same boat with them, and therefore they should all try hard together. Klasha and Onest are in a stupor from what is happening. After recovering, Klasia and Honest almost simultaneously give the annoying Loki a couple of punches, pushing him aside from themselves. Standing a little further away, Alec quietly suggests that Yorha blame everything on Loki if something goes wrong in the future. Yorha agrees. Loki draws a magic circle on the ground. Nest is standing next to him, bored with idleness, and Klasia is sitting next to Loki, listening to his explanations about the features of the magic circle. Alec turns to Yorha, wanting to ask her something. Loki laughs and does not hear what Yorha and Alec are talking about. Holding the Schwartz sword artifact in his hands and glancing sideways at Loki, Alec asks Yorha how much you can trust a man like Loki, because he is quite suspicious, noisy, and not only. Yorha thought about it, as if remembering something important, then said that 2 years ago in the Arcadian dungeon, which is famous for its high level of difficulty, Loki was the commander of the raid, and then in the campaign he did not lose any of his men there. Yorha looks at Alec with a smile and adds that, although Loki does not look like a reliable person, she believes that the incident speaks volumes. Alec smiles back at her and thinks that since Yorha is so confident in Loki's abilities, he definitely believes her. Then, Alec suddenly screams loudly and calls Onest, who is standing nearby, and judging by his appearance, he is bored. Onest turns around in surprise at the shout of his colleague to find out what Alec is up to again. Alec grins fervently and, folding his hands in a joking stance, offers Honest to fight with swords. Otherwise, they haven't had this for a long time. Honest woke up in an instant and laughed joyfully, inspired by the gorgeous idea that Alec had presented. Honest and Alec immediately started a joking romp. Honest reminded that Alec had not practiced for a long time, and that he would not let him down. Alec belligerently asks him to try his best. Yorha sighs and notices that even though 4 years have passed, the guys have not changed. Honest, who had suddenly become the old bully, blurted out that he did not like what Yorha was saying. Moreover, they need to go further into the dungeon, and training is important. Alec adds that this will give them a reason to look forward to this event. He is delighted. He happily praises Alec, saying that he knows exactly how to have fun. Alec is flattered by the praise, but agrees with her. Yorha, listening to the guys praise each other without stopping, wearily closed her eyes and pressed her hand to her head. Honest and Alec discuss a sword fight. Honest asks if Alec remembers the rules. After all, the first one who falls loses. Alec picks up and adds that in addition to this, the fallen gets a fine. The guys, pleased with themselves, laugh loudly. Laughing, Alec says that if he wins the fight, he will again have to ask Klasia to decide who will win. Wentz shouts indignantly that apparently Alec has forgotten how hard it was for him last time. Loki smiles at the noisy couple. Loki smiles and remembers that it has been about 4 years since they have been working together, and apparently their friendship will not fade. Klasia makes magical passes with her hands and believes that, in fact, they all know each other not so long ago. Smiling thoughtfully, Klasia says that Loki is still mysterious, and that she cannot believe that only he can cope with the boss of an entire floor. Klasia probably means that the bosses are too strong for a single-player battle. Loki is pleased and smiling. He thinks Klasha-chan is very smart and offers to teach her other magical things if she wants to. Klasha gloomily says that if Loki calls her Chan again, she will punch him. Loki laughs, but he understands everything. A view of the area with hills and steam clubs, among which the figures of Alec and his team can be seen. Loki created a magic circle. Klasha helps him, and the others stand around and watch the process of creating magic that takes place before their eyes. Yorha is delighted with what spatial magic looks like. Alec is also impressed. He didn't know that this kind of magic could be used without going to the next level. They both watch closely what Loki does next. Loki is flattered by the attention and delight of Yorhi and Alec, and he says with his usual smirk on his handsome face that this is not some kind of magic of free flight. This is magic, where the created spell moves a person to the place that he marked. The muscular Honest holds his deadly weapon, and someone says that everyone should be on the alert and ready to start fighting at any time. Yorha and Alec are also concentrating while listening to this voice. It was probably Loki's voice. One test says there's one strong asshole they need to beat. He missed such things a lot and asks his colleagues about the same thing. Klasha mentions the atmosphere before the boss fight. When you need to take weapons, sword items, and prepare. Alec smiles as he listens to the guys chatting cheerfully. Loki jokes that only Onest is not preparing, as he considers himself a genius and an ideal member of the team. Onest immediately launches a retaliatory barb at Loki. Yorha asks them not to be so noisy. Suddenly, Alec closes his eyes and concentrates hard. His clothes and hair are fluttering as if in the wind, and bright light is shining in all directions around his body. The command to teleport sounds and the adventure begins. The action is transferred to the capital of the Kingdom of Gardana. Beautiful view of the city with towers, neat stone houses, surrounded by high mountains and fluffy trees. A small window from which the accusation of lying can be heard. A view of a strict fireplace in a room where a man in a black robe stands in the middle of the room with a magic staff in his hands. Probably he is a sorcerer. And there is also another man next to the sorcerer. He shouts loudly, calling him a liar and demanding an immediate answer from him. His Highness, with his head rewound and his arm in a sling, is sitting on a couch and shouting at a man in a robe. The prince believes that all this cannot be a misunderstanding, and that he is not to blame for this situation. But the famous sorcerer in front of him clearly screwed up. The man in the robe, whom the prince called a sorcerer, calmly replies that he is only stating the fact that no one has cast absolutely any spells on the respected prince. The prince screams furiously and tells the sorcerer to shut up immediately. The prince is impatient as always. He does not stop shouting loudly at the sorcerer. For some reason, His Highness is sacredly sure that he was cursed by someone, and that it was this cowardly commoner, named Alec Jugret, who was responsible for all his troubles. The prince thought a little, biting his finger, but it's impossible. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bothered with this level for a long time. The sorcerer hesitantly decides to ask the prince if there was anything at the level that neutralized the magic. The prince did not understand what he was talking about. The sorcerer tells the prince that there is a spell on the 30th level of the King's Landing dungeon that removes all magic, even an auxiliary type of amplification. The sorcerer thinks that the reason for the prince's defeat lies in this. The prince thought about it. Suddenly, the prince had a brilliant idea. He confidently and loudly declares that this kind of thing as auxiliary magic is the kind of magic that all sorts of cowards use as salvation. The prince's face expresses an extreme degree of contempt. The prince believes that this has nothing to do with him. But at the same time, he suddenly remembers how heavy his sword has been lately in battle, and that he could not really lift it, and did not even understand how to defeat that terrible monster with one blow. His Highness the Prince stopped shouting and calmed down a bit. He thought again, rubbing his chin. But what was it then? If all that happened is not a curse, then what exactly did that person do to His Highness? But it's weird. The sorcerer thinks about it and decides to ask the prince which Alec he is talking about. There is one of the members of the legendary student group that conquered the 60th level. Perhaps the prince is referring to this very Alec. The prince wanted to say something, but made an annoyed noise. Then he laughed out loud. He is sure that all these are tales of commoners who, in his opinion, are all deceivers because this is their nature, which the sorcerer apparently still does not know. His Highness the Prince is smugly plotting something again and confidently declares that someone will not get away with it and that he, the prince, will definitely make this person pay for his deeds. The prince does not want to accept the fact that he is to blame for the troubles. The prince casually removes the bandage from his arm and asks someone walking next to him if His Majesty has sent for him. His Highness the Prince's head is still bandaged from his wounds, as is one of his arms, but he continues to walk forward through the hall at a brisk pace. The servant, following the prince through the huge hall, replies that His Highness is right. The prince believes that they want to talk to him about Alec Jugret, a former court magician. The prince smiled self-confidently. Probably his father finally agrees with him on something. The prince's scream is heard from behind the huge palace brothers-in-law. He believes that insulting him, the Dauphin, is tantamount to insulting the kingdom. Prince Dauphin shouts that if someone is not punished properly, the reputation of the royal family will be destroyed. A huge and almost empty throne room, heavy curtains, and a stained glass window. In the center of the hall, near the window, on a platform with steps, there is a strict throne, and next to it, with his back to the person entering, there is a large figure of a man in a raincoat. The man at the throne is motionless and silent. A man in a cloak with a fur collar and an image of a rose on the back of his robe turned around, looking at the prince walking towards the throne. Outwardly, the man looks impressive. The prince greets his majesty. He believes that he sees through everything and everyone. The prince is too self-confident and arrogant. He already offers his majesty to put a reward on that man's head, and thinks he can almost see his crying face. The prince laughs deliberately loudly. His majesty is silent. There was a sudden rustle of robes. His majesty turned around abruptly, his robe fluttering beautifully, revealing rich clothes and a tall, well-built figure underneath. He turned his face to the prince and calmly asks him if he has ever heard the name of Eldest Mira in his life. The prince finally fell silent. He is a little surprised, but obediently answers demand that he has never heard of a man with that name in his life. His majesty slowly sat down on the throne and remembers that more than 10 years have passed since that event. The man on the throne has blonde hair and a thick beard. Without looking at the prince, he remembers that the man was a court magician whom he, the ruler, had banished from the city. After all, that man, the court magician, was a real damn idiot. The prince suddenly became very quiet. He does not really understand what is happening here and is waiting for the story to continue. His majesty unhurriedly says that this guy, Eldest, while at court expressed obvious dissatisfaction with his majesty's title. A determined-looking young man. One of his eyes is darker than the other. This is Eldest. He is dressed in beautiful clothes and holds a staff in his hands. He calls on everyone to change the status quo in court. After all, if this is not done, Gardana will get into a bad situation in the future. His majesty recalls that the nobility did not like such an offer from Eldest. The prince sarcastically breaks into the story, saying that Eldest's exile was natural. After all, he shamefully showed disrespect for royal authority and traditions. However, his majesty does not laugh. He continues to tell the prince that, having lost his surname and nobility at court, this former noble Eldest became a commoner. And having already become one, he suddenly turned to the Academy of Magic for help. And there he silenced everyone around him thanks to his abilities. There he took advantage of the privilege of being the first graduate. And that's when he returned to court no longer as a nobleman, but as a court magician. His majesty chuckled. Suddenly, with a loud and forced laugh, his majesty asked the prince if he considered such a man as Eldest a fool. But just a year later, Eldest reappeared in court, but he continued to be censured for his speeches. The prince is silent and listens. Recalling again the appearance of Eldest, his majesty also recalls his words that commoners are not trivial people, that they saved him. His majesty thought again, because lately, for some unknown reason, the words of Eldest have been climbing into his head. His majesty is wearily leaning back on the throne and rubbing the bridge of his nose, as if it is difficult for him to speak. And he asks if the prince understands why he, the Dauphin, the son of Regulus, was given the same order to attack the dungeon and the monsters in it. The prince assumes that he was sent there only because his majesty wanted to check if the prince had clear achievements in the dungeon. But his majesty says he just wanted to make sure, wanted to check if he was right. But he didn't say what it was. Out of the blue, the prince hears the words that the situation requires a change in the kingdom. The prince is terrified. He doesn't understand what changes he's talking about. His majesty believes that, first of all, it is necessary to change the system of appointment of commoners. His majesty, looking sternly at his son, says that talented people in their kingdom should be appointed to positions regardless of their status. For example, people like Alec Jugret. The prince was speechless. He was completely shocked by his father's words. The prince begins to hesitantly resist his father's words, saying that future generations will be offended to rely on the help of commoners. And His Highness the Prince reminds his father that it was he, his father, the ruler, who taught the prince this. The prince has run out of patience, and he screams in horror, calling on his father to look at him, because he is the best proof. The prince believes that he suffered a lot because of the commoners his father was talking about now. He tries to encourage his father to think about it and understand it. The servant brought the prince a tray with papers and asks him to take them. The prince looks at the contents of the tray with displeasure and does not understand what kind of dirty piece of paper it is. It seems to him that there is something important written on this crumpled, dirty paper about the dungeon. Looking down at his son, His Majesty clarifies that this is Alec's memorandum, where he described the characteristics of the area with monsters, the necessary techniques and items that need to be mastered. It's impossible to record all this in a couple of attempts. The prince is in shock. The prince's hands, holding stained sheets of paper with neat notes by former court magician Alec Jugret about the dungeon and its dangers, are visibly shaking. He furiously crumples them into a fist, like some kind of garbage to be thrown away. The prince is clearly unhappy, not wanting to talk any more about the commoners in Alec Jugret, including the prince. Tells his father that he feels bad and that his whole body aches. Turning around, he coldly apologizes to his father and very quickly leaves the throne room. The prince obviously had a panic attack in his chambers. He fell to his knees and does not understand what is happening. His face is distorted with horror from what he heard from his father in the throne room. The prince's whole world is ready to crack at the seams from what he has heard. The prince, on his knees, tries in vain to organize the received data. He doesn't understand what's going on and what it all means. What kind of memorandum was his father talking about? Or maybe it's a strategy or a consultation. But this is not the case at all, the prince believes. The prince was eliminated by the memories of their joint trip with Alec Jugret to one of the dungeons when he was in his group. It seems that Alec tried to give consultations then, but the prince did not listen and ordered Alec never to talk to him again. The prince remembered the pitying eyes of Alec Jugret, with which he had looked at him then, and could not stand it. Shouted that Alec would not look at him like that. Grabbing a vase of flowers, the prince angrily threw it against the wall, causing it to shatter into small pieces. The prince is puffing furiously, his face still distorted with anger and incomprehension. But sitting on the floor among the fragments of a flower vase, the prince thinks that, after all, Alec Jugret was not a useful person. But now the prince is not sure if he himself was useful. However, His Highness the Prince quickly decided that he couldn't be incompetent. It's ridiculous, he's a prince. But the former court magician Alec Jugret is not even worthy of anyone talking about him. Finding an excuse for his thoughts, the prince gets angry again. In an uncontrollable fit of rage and tears, the prince, while in his chambers, repeats Alec Jugret's name several times, involuntarily remembers his face and screams again. It seems to him that all this must be some kind of terrible joke, not reality. A magic circle suddenly appeared in space, and people began to materialize from it. First, Alec deftly jumped out with a sword and began to look around. Yorha and Klassia followed, landing with their weight right on top of Alec. Then Loki gracefully appeared from the magic circle above the ground, which for some reason also landed directly on Alec Jugret, pinning him to the floor with his foot. Knowing Loki, it's possible that he did it on purpose. The guys from the adventure team suddenly hear loud noises and see bright flashes to their side. Alec and Yorha turned around, preparing for the worst outcome. They look focused, but not at all scared. With a haughty face, Loki was not at all surprised by the sounds he heard, and believes that everything went as usual, and that it was all even too perfect, because in front of them was... The guys and in front of them a stranger are standing in the middle of a huge hall lined with stones. In some places there are statues and niches, and in the distance you can see a gate or a door. Right in front of Alec and Loki was a huge figure with a sword. She is dressed all in black. She wears a horned helmet and glowing eyes are visible under it. The corridors of the dungeon. Along one of them, there is a huge humanoid monster in a horned helmet. He carries a long sword, chains on armor all over his body, and a fur cape. Someone sighs and regrets that it didn't work here either. The corridors of the dungeon. Drops of blood on the floor. This huge monster is the boss of the floor, and it is impossible to escape from him, because he will definitely catch up. It looks like someone has made a big mistake here this time. The action shows how Krista, one of the members of the team that Alec must save, and his friends are ordered to inform the guild that they need A rank or higher. Probably, someone specially sent a girl to report on what was happening. The corridors of the dungeon. A young man and a girl. These are two of the 4 team members asking Krista to go with an urgent report to the guild. And Loki will take care of this and goes in search of strong magicians. Krista promises to do everything in her power. A black-haired girl and a blonde young man were left fighting a huge monster in a horned helmet while Krista and Loki do their part of the task. They will definitely survive. The young man is obviously injured. but he's holding on with all his strength. The monstrous-looking monster that is the floor boss looks impressive. He is armored from head to toe, has a horned helmet, glowing eyes, and a huge two-handed sword, which he easily uses to strike. The floor boss raises his sword. He makes a wide swing and strikes an attacking blow, bringing down all his might on the black-haired girl in front of him. The girl is injured, but her face is focused, and she parries the blow. Their swords cross, converging in a blow. The monster's blow was too strong. The girl's hands are shaking and the sword is about to fall out of her hands. A blonde-haired young man shouts at her and sends a magical blow towards the monster to give the girl time to retreat. The warrior's girlfriend's name is Mabel. It is very difficult for a young man. This is not enough. Their magic is useless against this terrible monster, which easily destroys everything around with its huge weapon. Mabel runs to the young man, she retreats, and she is absolutely right in this situation. Because the floor boss is very dangerous. Someone suddenly shouted, demanding to clear the way to the battlefield. Honest appears. Like a hurricane, he delivers a powerful blow with his weapon at the boss of this floor running towards him. Mabel manages to dodge the attack of Honest and the monster, but seeing the fight, Mabel and the blonde young man are startled by the sudden appearance of Honest, who again strikes a powerful blow with his weapon at the boss's armor. Wente says with a grin that he is still a very strong boss. It seems that he even likes it. And then Alec also appears. He adds that such bosses are attacked only together. During the speech, Alec has already swung in a jump and is ready to hit the armor that this big floor boss is wearing. It looks like the heroes arrived to help very timely. Apparently, Alec, seeing the boss and his unusual attacks that look like twisted ball strikes, suddenly seemed to understand the nature of the boss's strength. His face expresses surprise and at the same time awareness of what is happening, but this is not accurate. He delivers a difficult blow with Schwartz's sword, which should have hit the monster clearly, but he managed to react instantly and dodge Alec's blow with the help of his skills, which Alec knows almost nothing about. Alec shouts in surprise that this cannot be, because this seemingly clumsy boss managed to group up in a jump and, resting his foot on the ground, again assumed an upright position and is ready for battle. The monster does not give Alec and Honest a break and continues to strike firmly and quickly one after another. The monster spins around its axis and successfully repels both Alec's and Honest's attacks with its powerful sword. This floor boss is very dangerous. Alec took another blow from the enemy's sword, parrying it with Schwartz's sword, tying it with Schwartz's sword. But the blow from the boss was so strong that Alec squeezed his eyes shut and holds the sword with both hands, in an attempt to contain the force of the boss's attack. It's obvious that Alec is having a hard time. Honest also barely has time to put up blocks to protect himself from the lightning strikes of the monster, which he distributes around him. He is very tired, but he smiles maliciously and seems to be getting angry. But it is undoubtedly as hard for him as it is for Alec. Another powerful blow from the monster's huge sword threw Alec back and he backs away, while trying to stay on his feet and not fall. Flashes of light, dust and fragments of stones are scattered all over the area from the blows of weapons against each other. The floor boss is terrible. Suddenly, Alec realized that, judging by the monster's movements, it could be said that this guy, or rather, this floor boss, was not human. He's also not an animal. He's in general. Alec believes that the floor boss is not a living being. Taking and beating off another terrible blow from the monster, Alec screams that he is not joking, that there is nothing and no one inside these huge armor topped with a horned helmet. It is absolutely empty. Honest seems to understand what Alec means and thinks that if that's the case, they need to verify this guess that there is no human inside the dungeon boss's armor. And immediately Honest makes another sharp lunge with his weapon towards the monster in order to hit him. The monster reacts instantly and tries to dodge Honest's blow with his usual twisted technique in order to regroup again or rush to the side with his help. But Honest is on guard and cannot be fooled. He laughed. Honest runs at the monster, who still hasn't finished his move, and shouts that this monster is doing such a trick with dodging an enemy attack is far from the first time. Honest swings his spear and is ready to strike at the monster's boss. And Honest is clearly unintentional to let the monster escape. He sticks his weapon into it with a scream in an attempt to slow down his attacks, and then Alec appears in the field of view of Honest and the monster, to help Honest in the battle and also strike at the floor boss. Alec, standing in front of the floor boss, used his strong longitudinal slash technique, and this blow finally cut through the monster's armor, separating its head in a horned helmet from its huge armored body. Mabel and the wounded blonde-haired youth watched the battle with the boss from the side, and saw Yorha, Loki, and Klasia running down the corridor to meet the team. Mage just looks closely at the result of Alec's attack against the boss. Alec is pleased with his punch. His expression is focused and says that he has understood a lot about the monster that is the boss of this floor. After all, this headless knight is a huge inanimate monster, a walking armor with a huge sword and a set of attacks. Yorha looks serious and tells the team that she knows that the headless knight is a mortal demon who was one with a man and a horse, which means that the monster that Alec and Honest are now seeing was his knight. Alec is closely and intently watching what is happening to the monster, and sees that some flashes of light are escaping from its neck. Then Alec realizes that the monster is clearly not dead, and sees the swift jerk of a seemingly defeated monster. Suddenly, the floor boss, who rushed towards Alec, swung his sword and made a strong attack. But Alec managed to dodge the monster's blow with lightning speed, even though it was not easy for him to perform this maneuver. Alec is very surprised, but now Alec already has two swords. He will have to fight the floor boss further, and it doesn't matter if he has a head or not. Blows from the monster are raining down one after another. But it just seems to Alec that the boss was weaker before. It's quite difficult for Alec. But then Alec confidently and contentedly looks straight ahead at the monster, raises his weapon, and says that the most important thing is that all the attention of the headless monster is now focused on Alec and the battle with him. There is a flash nearby. The Ontest that appeared next to it quickly makes an attack, and before the monster has time to react, it makes a move towards the boss in order to hit him. He sticks his weapon into the armor of the headless monster, and it lingers for a moment. Grinning contentedly, the bully Honest says, addressing the floor boss, that he does not know whether the boss is headless in front of him or not, but even he must understand that. And then Honest makes a sharp dash towards the monster. The huge headless floor boss and Honest exchange blows. Honest furiously shouts that you should not underestimate him and hits the floor boss with his weapon. The boss blocks Honest's blows with a huge sword in response. There is noise and light flashes all around. Wontist, in the rush of battle, gives a signal to Alec, and he immediately comes to the aid of his comrade, appearing directly above the headless monster and using his magic circles that amplify blows, strikes the monster, a powerful blow from top to bottom. It's hard for Alec, but he's focused and holding his sword tightly. He strikes at the headless monster, but the latter, holding his terrible weapon, parries Alec's blows. And from the collision of Alec's attacks and the monster, strong air currents and light disperse in all directions. Alec throws his sword towards the monster with a powerful throw in an attempt to hit it already and really hits. Piercing the monster or some part of its body, the force of Alec's blow is such that his sword pierces its target through. The monster immediately performs some kind of evasive maneuver and rapidly moves away from Alec and Honest down the corridor. Flashes of light and dust fly after him. Alec did not expect such speed and looks in surprise after the retreating monster. Alec and Honest look towards the monster and discuss the battle and the blows that took place. Nest assumed that it was the monster's reaction to the blow, but Alec sighed and believes that it was more of an evasive maneuver. They are both alert and collected. Alec, looking at Honest, instructively says that it is not so difficult, because it is an ancient relic. Nest, with a cocky expression on his face, believes that they are lucky that he did not break, because if it was a magic sword, he would not have stood a candle. Among the thick clouds of dust and small fragments, the outlines of a headless monster, still holding a sword, are visible. It looks like he's motionless. But then the combat specialist Honest saw something in the dust. He makes an interested sound, looking ahead. Of course, Honest's attention was attracted by the headless monster, which, despite all the powerful attacks, rises again from the clouds of dust, holding its head in its hand. He was not surprised that the monster was so tenacious. It looks like the fight will continue. Ennis and Alec are smiling confidently at the monster rising from the dust. Ennis states that since this boss cannot be killed with Alec's sword, then he is probably immortal. Alec agrees with Honest and says there is no doubt about it. They're ready. Suddenly standing up after the fight, the Headless One attaches Alec's recently severed head to his shoulders. But before that, he had fought them without a head. Alec is surprised and looks closely at what is happening. The floor boss is fully ready for battle again. Here the boss, who has already recovered, emits a roar of such force that its sound makes all participants in this long battle duck and squint. Yorha and Clausia covered their ears with their hands, while Alec and Onsias clenched their teeth. An incredibly powerful roar was given out by this boss. The floor boss, in a horned helmet, with bright light shining from his eyes, continues to growl deafeningly, as if announcing his right to this place, and Alec can't stand it, shouting at him to shut up at last. He's still holding Schwartz's sword with one hand, and he's covering one ear with the other. Suddenly, Alec tensed and concentrated because the huge monster, whose horned head was on his shoulders again, rushed towards Alec and his team, clearly intending to attack them. There are huge clouds of dust and light flashes around him. The monster attacks Alec with its huge weapon. Alec dodges and parries the blows of the sinister sword. Stones and dust fly around from their collision, complicating visibility on the battlefield. Alec has a hard time coping with the force of this monster's blow. Alec cursed. It was difficult for him to keep track of the monster's attacks because it acts incredibly fast. He doesn't understand how the monster does it. Suddenly, Alec coughs up blood, his eyes full of surprise. Alec was probably injured. The horned monster in a flowing robe continues to continuously attack Alec. It seems that the strength of his already terrible blows is only increased. And besides the sword, the monster suddenly kicks Alec in the side with his huge foot. The floor boss is deadly. Yorha, watching Alec and the monstrous boss fight from afar, froze in horror. She is worried. Alec cursed again. He was in pain and his face was distorted, and blood had accumulated in his mouth. He was obviously injured by one of the terrible attacks. From such a powerful attack and kick received from the boss, Alec flies to the side and hits the brick wall behind him, kicking up dust, small stones, and air currents. The monster, hitting Alec, jumps back to its starting position. Alec is really injured. He hit the bricks so hard when he flew away from the monster's blow that he coughs up blood. He's in a lot of pain right now. Oneness nearby shouts his name, trying to figure out if his friend is alive after such a terrible blow. Finds herself finally the clouds of dust settled down, and it is clear that Alec can get up. He crouches down by the broken side and tries to catch his breath after the blow received from the monster. He still has the sword. Alec's face is scarred, and he thinks it was close. It turns out that at the moment when the monster struck, Yorha managed to protect Alec with her body magic using her staff, summoning a shield. Alec didn't know she could do that and is grateful. After all, if Yorha had not managed to do this, Alec would have fallen. He doesn't know what to do. Alec takes a deep breath and asks Loki how much time they have, saying that there are only 3 potions left. Loki stands behind him, who also watched the battle, and a little further away, Clausia helps the blonde-haired young man treat his wounds. As always, Loki, pleased with himself, looking at Alec confidently, replies that they have about 5 minutes left. Alec is tired, but skeptically grins back, saying that it's easy for Loki to say that. Alec asks if Loki watched the fight. Suddenly, a strong grinding of guns against each other is heard, which is produced by the tip of the Onesta spear and the sword of the floor boss converging in deadly blows near the place where the rest of the adventurer team is sitting. This is Honest, who took over the initiative in battle after the monster kicked Alec out of the battlefield and continues to fight the boss. But it is difficult for him, and he calls Alec, urging him to hurry up and help. Cursing softly again, Alec drinks him to hurry up and help. Cursing softly again, Alec drinks the potion. Now Alec is back in battle. He rushed to help Onesta because they need to act as soon as possible. Intest and Alec surround the monster from 2 sides, clearly intending to jointly attack it. The clanging and cutting of weapons resounds all around the battlefield. An incredibly large, monstrous-looking boss in a horned helmet, armor all over his body with eyes burning with rage, who clutches a huge 2-handed sword. That's what their opponent is today. It looks terrifying. As expected, Eunice and Alec attack this terrible monster again, hitting it from 2 sides. Eunice strikes with a spear. Alec supports his friend's attacks with his sword. But it seems as if the monster doesn't care how many opponents there are around. Alec smashed something with a strong blow of his sword and shiny fragments fly around. Loki, watching the fight with a smile, thinks that now is just the time. Alec, in the rush of fighting with the boss, emits a loud emotional cry, as if cheering everyone on. Once again, Alec's sword and the horned monster's sword have come together in a blow. The opponents are facing each other and trying to get the upper hand. Alec fearlessly looks at the terrible monster, being very close to him. Shards and light fly around them. Suddenly, the eyes of Alec Exiled and the monster that is the boss of this floor met. You can see that blood is flowing down Alec's face. It seems that it is even flowing from his eyes. But Alec did not flinch. He looks forward at his opponent without taking his eyes off. A blonde-haired young man, stained with blood and dirt after a battle with a monster, anxiously watches Alec, and the monster indignantly shouts that Alec Jugret does not think with his head at all. This young man believes that it is impossible to fight a monster so easily without the support of comrades and magic. If they need to buy time, then let them do the same as they do with Mabel. Yorha is standing nearby, who is also intently watching the battle. Suddenly, Yorha looks kindly at the blonde young man and addresses him by name, saying that she understands his concern, but what he is offering now is simply impossible. The blonde young man's name is Revel. Alec and the horned floor boss continue their deadly sword dance, the aim of which is to hit the opponent. Danger is coming, and this is a fight to the death. And they and all the participants in this fight are enjoying every minute of the action taking place now. Honest and Alec, taking up fighting positions and holding their weapons tightly at the same time, shout that all this is because they are not just warriors. They are adventurers. The faces of the friends are full of determination, although they are stained with dirt, blood, and their clothes are torn in places. And they continue their battle. Alec put up a block with his sword to defend himself from another powerful attack by the horned monster. It is clear that Alec is starting to get tired of such an intense fight. He is breathing heavily, and his face is smeared with mud and blood. During a short break, Honest and Alec exchange a few words. Honest drinks a potion and jokingly reproaches Alec for being slow, and he is the commander of the entire squad. Alec gives a nervous laugh and clarifies that he has already drunk the last potion. The sound of the falling bottle of the potion seems to illustrate the fact that the battle continues. Innes tells Alec that he's probably starting to get a taste of battle. Alec quite agrees with this statement. Both are ready for a new round and are gripping their weapons tightly. The action goes back in time. A view of the serene sky and the lush crowns of the trees, from which the petals slowly fly around. Someone's voice says that he wants to become a court magician. Young Klaja, Yorha, Honest and Alec in the outfits of students of the Academy of Magic. And it's Alec who wants to become a court magician, even though his father was against it. He informs his group about this with a smile. The rest of the guys in the group look at him in surprise. The guys are standing on a beautiful alley, each holding a graduation document from the academy. Klaja says that if he becomes a court magician, he won't have to worry about money. Alec wants to make life easier for his father, who raised him alone, without a mother. Yorha dejectedly states that they will probably all become adventurers and that this is the opposite of stability. Wentes gloomily adds that he is generally against all this. Sakura petals are falling from the trees behind the guys. My studies are over. Honest continues to talk, gloomily believing that he and his friends are the most powerful squad of 4 geniuses in the history of the Academy of Magic, and that this is much more fun than some kind of useless trial. Obviously, he doesn't like the idea of Alec leaving the team. Klasia laughs mockingly at Honest and his words, clarifying who he considers a genius, if not himself. Honest immediately gets turned on and defiantly makes excuses that if it wasn't for this year, he would definitely be at the top of the whole class. Klasia is not sure. Klasia glances at Honest and continues to deliberately tease him, saying that he would be a genius, but only at number 4. He is furious at Klasia's insolence and makes a terrible face and glares at her. Alec, in the robes of a student of the Academy of Magic, looks at the beautiful view of the falling sakura with a peaceful smile and listens out of the corner of his ear as his friends fool around and laugh. He probably thinks about the future and what lies ahead for them all. He continues to watch his friends romp. Honest, having received a slap in the face, runs away from Klasia. Yorha habitually squeaks, holding Klasia, and tries to separate them. Alec likes these three guys, but despite Alada's orders, he has already made his final decision. Yori's sudden shout brought Alec, standing at the opening in the stone wall, back to reality. She waves her hand at him, and he is surprised by such a sudden shout. Honest and Klasia continue their humorous romp. Yorha smiles carelessly and tells Alec not to forget about them, because despite the fact that their paths are now diverging, one day they will meet again and be together. Alec is surprised by her words. Yorha cheerfully shouts to Alec that one day she will definitely return to snatch him, Alec, from the boring life of a court magician, and this will happen when she and the guys become successful adventurers. Yorha is very sweet. Yorha finished her speech. She winks cheerfully at Alec and fervently reminds him that later she will not accept rejection from him. Alec did not expect such a parting word. He smiles at her shyly and agrees to her terms. Klasia supports Yorha, saying that if they have said something, they will definitely do it. Honest, who apparently got punched in the nose by Klasia again, adds that their meeting will not be the last, and that if Alec needs help, then he can count on them. Sunlight mixes with sakura petals, giving the action solemnity and hope for the best. Honest, Klasia, and Yorha stand looking at Alec and ask if he promises that one day they will unite in one group. Alec thought for a moment, but then resolutely replies to his friends that although he does not yet know when, but one day in the future they will all become a single squad of adventurers. Solemnity and determination are evident in Alec's response. Alec leaves in one direction, heading to the capital to become a court magician, and Honest, Klasia, and Yorha go in the other direction, towards adventures. At this very moment, their friends' life paths diverge, but Alec made a promise: a view of the city and neat buildings surrounded by mountains and trees. Capital. The court of Gardana. This is the very place that twice banished the greatest wizard of all time. Alec resolutely thinks that only for this, he is ready to do his will. The action returns to the current time, in the dungeon, where two teams are fighting with a powerful floor boss. Part of one team is already injured. The rest are waiting for the outcome of the battle. Honest and Alec begin to get a taste of the battle and exchange opinions. At the same time, Honest and Alec rush down the corridor with brick walls and sides towards the monster to attack him again. But he is not asleep and is preparing for their attack. From the outside, it seems that their battle is endless, and that the guy's strength is running out. The huge floor boss in a horned helmet and powerful armor seems to be applying some kind of reinforcement. His body suddenly becomes enveloped in clouds of steam and power. He clutches his two-handed sword and growls furiously, as if he wants to scare the enemy. The boss delivers a crushing blow to Honest, who deftly dodged in a spectacular flip jump, and the monster's sword smashed the brickwork on the side. Brick fragments and clouds of dust are flying around the battlefield again. The boss is very strong. Honest and Alec strike at the monster from different sides, forcing him to constantly change the angle of impact and monitor their actions. They obviously want to confuse and exhaust him. He is very happy with the battle and smiles fiercely as he strikes. That's how it's done. To cheer each other up, Honest and Alec conduct a dialogue in parallel with the battle, not forgetting to strike furiously at the monster. Honest shouts that it was Alec who first appeared 4 years later, and that he only does that. He makes this face. Alec dodges the counterattacks of the floor boss, and the uncomprehending exclamation bursts out of him. In the next moment, he had already successfully dodged the tip of the horned monster's sword. But the sword was close, and Alec's face was tense. After all, the boss is very dangerous. Parrying another killer kick from the monstrous boss of the floor from which dust flies around, Alec writhes, backs away, and loudly answers. Awns that he himself also had different circumstances. It's not easy for Alec to cope. Throwing away the boss's sword with swings of his weapon, Alec shouts loudly so that he knows that he, Alec, regrets something. In response to this emotional outburst, he screams incomprehensibly. He does not understand Alec. The battle is not interrupted for a moment. Resting his spear on the ground, he jumps up and strikes at the monster, and at the same time shouts to Alec that he did not understand anything. The boss, who backs away after being hit by Alec, gets hit by Honest's powerful kick from the other direction. The floor boss in the horned helmet, who is now covered in smoke and dust, does not even think to give up. His eyes are still burning with fire. The predatory look makes it even more eerie. He laughs contentedly, and looking at the monster, thinks it was fun. The boss is ready for battle again, and unexpectedly attacks Honest, who is slightly distracted. The boss's blows fall one after another. He quickly parries them all with a spear, although it is very difficult, because the boss is huge. Alec screams and calls Honest's name. He's worried. But he's always in his repertoire. With an unfailing grin, he tells Alec that guys like him and Alec, that only in places like this gloomy and dangerous dungeon do they begin to shine. Alec is surprised by these words and at the same time amazed by the strength of Honest's spirit. Alec and Honest, without interrupting the battle with the monster, continue the conversation they started. Honest believes that it once seemed strange to him, and that even after the incident with Alec's father, he, Honest, thought that Alec would definitely go with them. Alec is very surprised why Honest started this conversation right now at such a dangerous moment when there is a battle for life. Honest retorts that Alec would never have answered if it hadn't been for the right moment. Apparently, Honest considers the battle such a moment. Honest urges Alec to remember his words after their first year at the Academy of Magic. He and a group of friends were sitting in a local tavern and drinking. Then he said something in front of the whole company, and that's exactly what Alec should remember. He was sure then that he should have died in battle. He believes that he was very close to it. Claudia, who was sitting next to him, asked why Honest would not study the magic of support, but he was not sure that a martial genius should not learn such a thing. Sitting there in the tavern, Yorha believed that their meeting was determined by fate, and in this case, Claudia suggested going as far as possible. At that moment, Alec was just silently listening to what his friends and fellow adventurers were talking about. Drunk, loud, and overly cheerful, Marnist, holding a mug with a drink in his hands that day, laughingly told friends that they strive for only one thing in life, to become better, and it seemed to him very funny. He just laughs. The action is back in the current time, in the dungeon where Alec and Honest discussed their past during the battle with the floor boss. In the heat of battle, Honest furiously shouts to Alec that he has already warned him that the royal court is a bad and unworthy place. Alec thought about it. It's not easy for him to give such an answer. And pursing his lips, he listens to the screams of Honest, who continues to ask Alec what exactly he wanted. Not someone there, but Alec himself. Honest urges Alec on, provoking a response. The tension is soaring. Alec starts to get angry, but for now he calmly asks Honest to shut up. But there is no stopping Honest. He is always intemperate. And now in a rage he shouts that he will not be silent until Alec tells him what he is hiding in that chest. Their exchange with Honest was interrupted by a new powerful attack by the boss in the horned helmet, who struck Alec with such force that the very air around him seemed to explode and filled with dust and fragments of stones. It's incredible how Alec managed to fend off such a blow. Alec grimaced and automatically thought about a topic completely unrelated to the fight. He thought he couldn't help, that he didn't know what they had just been talking about. For 6 years they were all friends and ate together. He wants to help his friends solve problems. Honest's face brought Alec out of his stupor. He suddenly realized that he had almost missed a blow from the boss, but Honest jumped out right in front of him and parried the blow. Honest wearily asks if this is a bad thing, and if Alec still wants Honest to shut up. Alec is silent. It's unfair. He looks at Honest, who continues to fight with the monster and thinks that all these words are not at all suitable for what he wants to say. It's hard for Alec to find the right words, and it makes him sad. He worries. Alec came to his senses, gathered his resolve, and rushed forward to help Honest, who continues to fight with the monstrous floor boss. Alec screams that he just wanted to help him. He says that he just wanted to repay him. Alec is very excited. Honest squinted uncomprehendingly at Alec, who was next to him, and he continued to repeat without stopping that he had owed him for a long time and really wanted to repay his debt. Alec's face expresses confidence but also despair. Alec can't stop thinking about the sad, tear-stained, and suffering face of Eldas. He can't get rid of this image that is stuck in his memory. It seems to Alec that this image, which seems to be about to cry, does not look at all like Eldas. Alec's emotions got the better of him, and he screams that's why he thought if he could change it, he could repay him. As if not seeing the huge monster next to him, he screams that this is why he went against everyone, and that is why they are all in the same boat now. Alec and Honest continue their battle with the monster, and at the same time their conversation. Alec asks Honest how he can say that, because it's their own choice. He asks if he is not happy now. The boss continues to strike with his creepy sword. Alec remembers that when the prince kicked him out of the squad, he had to tell him everything right to his face, even if they hit each other. He had to say more than he usually did. In Alec's memories, the prince and his men leave, abandoning him. Suddenly he stumbled and fell from the blow. He was bleeding. Alec continues to beat the monster, saying, either to Onesta or to himself, that all he could do then was just hold on to the position he had chosen. And yet, the screeching. He rises wearily from the ground, holding his weapon in his hands. Rubbing his head, he asked Alec, who was amazed by the guess, that he probably wanted this. Otherwise, he would not have been at court for 4 whole years. Alec is shocked and froze. Honest, with a suddenly kind smile without a shadow of malice, looks attentively at Alec and says that he is not a fool and that this is enough to make him look decent in his eyes. Strangely, Honest can also be perceptive sometimes. Alec froze. He would like to say something, but tears are running from his eyes. He sees the floor boss raise his huge sword for the umpteenth time to bring it down on Alec and Intes in a deadly attack. Would Alec miss the kick, or would he take it? A sudden bright light from a large magic circle appeared above the heads of the fighting boss, Alec and Onesta, distracting their attention to themselves. Not realizing that it was Alec, he squinted at the bright light from the magic circle and waited for what would happen. Loki stands at a distance and stretches out his arms towards the boss battle. Behind him are all the other members of their enlarged squad, some of them injured and sitting on the ground. They're all alive, and it's for them that Alec and Honest are fighting the boss. It was Loki who created the magic circle over the combatants, just as he had originally intended. It was for this that those 5 minutes of endless battle with the monster were needed, which, as he believes, were useful for thinking not only for him, the recent past. Yorha, addressing Loki in amazement, says that making Alec think he is a swordsman is not a bad strategy. But probably this psychological burden will only worsen the fight against demons. Loki replies, what if? Loki asks Yorha if the boss they're going to fight has serious intelligence, which she wonders about. After all, demons usually don't have intelligence. Loki says he didn't know it was possible until he saw it himself. But a smart demon, the current time point. A creepy floor boss in a horned helmet with glowing eye sockets and a voice. Loki, who continues his thought and shouts that a demon with intelligence is... Loki gloatingly shouts that this is an opportunity to take advantage of, probably referring to the boss in front of them. Loki's clothes and hair are fluttering from the air currents and the power that is released from using the spell, and he is clearly confident in his words. Suddenly, the monster lost interest in Alec and on a stand, rushed in the direction of Loki and the rest of the team, who were standing right behind Loki while he was making a magic circle. Alec shouts a warning, trying to stop the monster. Loki, with Yorha Eisen standing behind him, as well as Klasia and the wounded Ravel with Mabel, tired of the fight. There's a low side and walls of the floor behind him. There is nowhere to run. And suddenly, Loki froze in amazement, as if he had seen something terrible or unexpected. The monster that had been fighting Alec and Honest a moment ago, and which Loki was ready to hit with a magic circle, dealt him a crushing blow with his huge sword. Loki did not have time to put up a defense, and it looks like he was dealt a fatal blow. The monster looks contentedly at how the startled Loki falls, and the shocked Alec and Honest watch this picture in horror. They did not have time to stop the monster. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. But what is it? Because Loki is smiling a little. A deafening laugh suddenly rang out from Loki's mouth, and now the monster froze in surprise. Loki seemed to glow, exuding power and standing in front of a monster that seemed to have just struck him dead. This is very unexpected, and no one understands anything. Loki smiles maliciously. He is not only unharmed, but also very pleased with what happened. The horned monster was scared away by the homemade magic circle he created, but something is happening to Loki's body. It seems as if it is melting and evaporating. Now Loki understood why the monster was afraid of magicians, and why it wanted to destroy it so quickly. Suddenly, Loki's figure began to blur and melt into the air very quickly. Loki's voice shouts a spell of immobilization magic, and suddenly, a real magic circle has formed under the monster's feet. Loki laughs triumphantly, because the monster even passed through the magic circle he created. There are clouds of dust all around. Honest happily and viciously swears at Loki, and believes that he showed his best tricks. He sees the figure of Lorca and the others not at all where the monster saw them. And Loki lied to them that he didn't have enough mana to make the boss buy the trick. Loki triumphantly says that he told Honest and the others that they would deceive everyone, and that it was only thanks to Alec and Honest that they were able to deceive the enemy. Meanwhile, the monster is trying to get out of the magic circles and makes an attempt to escape. Loki shouts that it's time to reduce the mobility of the monster, which is rushing between magic circles in an attempt to break through, and that it should be dismantled as soon as possible, which he suggests to the whole team, including Alec and Honesta. Alec is angry, but he also wonders along the way how Loki was able to calculate all this so cleverly. But at the same time, he is pleased that Loki is alive. Uranus thinks he was a fool to doubt Loki and worry about what was happening. They're running towards the monster. Alec and Onst run to the floor boss with weapons in their hands to finish the job they started and destroy the boss, as Loki suggested. Suddenly, Onest, running a little ahead, cursed loudly. He saw something and did not understand what it was. Loki, standing in the same position and watching what is happening below, grins and says that apparently, Tace would have been angry and would have attacked him in this form. Loki knew it. He just knew it. He was surprised. On the run, Onest got into a magic circle that was formed right under his feet. He wonders who exactly installed it in such a place. The circle begins to glow more strongly. Onest's clothes and hair fly. Something is about to happen. Suddenly, Onest saw Klaja, who is in the same place as Loki. She stretched out her hand in the direction of the battle. He was surprised. He and Klaja look at each other in silence. Something is probably going to happen now. Honest back. Loki thinks he understood what was going on, and it's not that he didn't have enough mana initially. He just asked Klasia to help him carry out his plan. After all, the real reason is that Honest disappears from the magic circle. The action is transferred to the past. View of the imposing Magic Academy building with towers, surrounded by high mountains and protective walls. Someone says the names of Alec Jugret, Yorhi Eisens, and Onesta Lang. A female teacher with glasses and a strict hairstyle asks the named students what is the matter and why the three of them do not have the ability to support magic. In the middle of an empty classroom, she informs them that they are not at all suitable for the role of adventurers. Support magic is a necessary skill during dungeon cleanup, no matter how good these students are otherwise. If they don't come to their senses, they won't become good team members. He doesn't listen to her and says he won't change people. Alec asks if they have any more potions, or the teacher shouts that she knows perfectly well about dungeons with limited items. Yorha suffers, grabs her head, and apologizes to the guys, believing that she is simply not good enough for the team. Cotton books. A voice says that it looks like nothing can be done. This is another member of the team gathered in the classroom after lessons. Namely, this is Klasia, who had just been silent and sat reading a book. Now she's closed the book and is leaning her face on her hand and looking busily at the audience. She informs the participants in the conversation, including the teacher, that she will take care of everything herself. If the team doesn't mind, no one was against it. And adult Klasia stands against the ruins in combat clothes and with equipment. And that's how Klasia became that very expert in support magic. She is the very person who is smart for her own good. She is a real genius. The action returns to the current moment. Loki looks askance at Klasia and thinks that he did not expect such a development of events, and that Klasia is using magic, which he once helped her with in such a short period of time. Klasia is very beautiful. She smiles confidently and prepares to attack. She looks at Honest and says that she is ready to cover him during the fight. At this moment, Tace teleports out of the magic circle created by Klasia right above the monster and prepares to strike at its horned head until it fights back with its huge axe. The monster continues to try to get out of Loki's trap. He is very focused and closely monitors the actions of the monster. He needs to calculate everything correctly and strike a striking blow. so as not to let his friends down. And the monstrous boss of the floor clearly will not obediently wait for death. The guy swings his weapon hard. The monster they're fighting is flying far back. The monster is looking at the guy. The guy with the serious face stares ahead and calls the monster. The guy delivers a powerful kick and irritably orders the monster to be silent, swearing at him. Someone's joyful voice comes from somewhere, notifying that Mabel has returned. A girl with short hair, whose name is Mabel, jumps high, carrying her sword behind her back. Mabel flies straight at the monster, about to land on it. The girl is surprised to say that someone has arrived as promised. The girl strikes the monster with all her might when she approached the floor, but the monster quickly managed to dodge. The girl rises in her arms and says that she knew about everything. Mabel turns around with a smile on her face and says that this boss knows exactly how to dodge attacks. The monster stands in the center of a certain circle. He looks up with a grin on his face, a weapon in his hands. A young guy stands and looks at something, slightly raising his head. His hand is under his chin. This guy's name is Loki, and he sees right through this boss. The monster jumps high above the ground. He notices something and looks intently ahead. The monster began to sort out the wall on which Loki stands. In the hands of a monster, and a weapon with which he is going to fight. The guy is looking ahead. He has a slight smile on his face. He is serious and ready to take a hit. The monster gets to the top and goes to the side. The guy stretches his arms out and says that he will not have two chances for a successful strike. Mabel is standing downstairs scared, looking forward next to her one more person. The girl screams that Loki has completely lost his mind, and the monster is already next to him. Meanwhile, the monster is running very fast towards the guy and is going to attack him. The monsters stare very intently ahead and smile broadly, baring their sharp teeth. A sword appears in Loki's hands. The guy smiles and says that he has already warned the monster about the second successful strike. The monster's sword and Loki meet, and the guy delays the attack. Loki looks at the monster and smiles. He says that the monster needs to try hard. Mabel and another guy are standing downstairs looking at the situation. The guy says that Loki has a magic sword in his hands. Mabel says that Loki's strength is not enough to repel the blow. Loki continues to restrain the monster's weapon. His face looks focused. Loki clenched his teeth hard. Suddenly, someone says the word charm. The girl with the staff pulls her weapon forward and calls for reinforcement. A certain person looks at it dumbfounded. He recognizes the sevenfold gain. No matter what kind of hero Elhai Zenny is, she still remains only a trump card. Loki's and the monster's weapons touch again with all their might. One more blow and Loki's sword will not stand. Loki stares ahead and screams. He hopes that he will not regret the act he is about to commit, and he asks someone if that person will regret it. The girl with the staff looks carefully forward and calls for a three-pointed battle formation. 3 circles appear in front of her, which are united by a triangle. A large bright hole appears above the monster and Loki. A very strong wind rises around them, and they continue to fight. Suddenly, long chains appeared, flying forward and making loud noises. The chains were heading towards the monster. He noticed them. Chains surround the monster from all sides and circle around it, taking it prisoner. The man looks at it and repeats the girl's words about the three-pointed combat formation. This magic is powerful and restraining, which is activated if you pass through 3 specific points during a certain period. The activation conditions are strict, but the effect is truly incredible to me. The man does not understand why to use this magic now. The decrease in mobility is a mixture of plausible magic. The reason for all the shouting was to mislead the target. The sword disappears in the hands of the guys. The man does not understand why he did all this. The monster is wrapped in chains, but still strikes the guy, and he flies far back. Mabel calls the guy by name. Her face looks scared. There is a big explosion at the place where the monster and the guy were standing. A scarlet liquid is flowing from Loki's mouth. The guy continues to look ahead, and there is a noticeable smile on his face. The guy is standing in front of the large entrance to the place where the fight is taking place. Someone calls him Alec Jugret and says that everything is ready. Loki raises his head and even laughs. The guy screams that the monster will get all their power. Someone's gloved hand is stretched out in front of a test tube in his hand. Some guy holds out this test tube and says the word Thunderbolt. A large army of monsters that look like skeletons in their hands. Weapons. They are all staring intently forward and preparing to attack. A man with a beard shouts acceleration and gain, striking one of the monsters. A girl with a braided tail stands behind the man and also fights against monsters. She screams man. The man's name is Leviel. The man doesn't even turn around, says it's a girl named Krista. Raitain, one of the sailors, who resemble skeletons, falls back from a man's blow. A team of 4 people was surrounded by skeletal monsters. The man says that they completely deprived themselves of the opportunity to escape. A girl named Krista turns to the man and says that they needed to find another passage. The man asks what Krista means. After all, they have some kind of curse on them. The paths they choose constantly turn out to be dead ends. Meanwhile, the skeletal monsters continue to attack. The man bangs his hands against each other and says they can handle her in 5 minutes. Of the many circles in the center of which there is a star, lightning began to pour on the monster. Lightning began to pour on the monster. It's Alec using his thunderbolt. His team stands and watches all this in a daze. Monsters are shrouded in chains. Some tentacles are climbing out of his body. The tentacles continue to appear and began to take up the sword, cutting the chains. The guy, having pressed his teeth, says that they can already move. The girl with short hair is staring intently ahead. The girl with short hair says that her magic won't last long and asks Alec for something. The girl thinks that the guy should do something now. Meanwhile, Alec is reaching for something ahead. Alec clenches his teeth tightly and closes his eyes tightly, coughing in pain. The guy falls to his knees. A girl with short hair squeezes one eye shut and calls Alec by name. Loki stands, and everyone looks at it from the side 2 times a day. Alec goes beyond his limits. Alec's body is already literally screaming from the rapid consumption of mana, no matter how brilliant he is. The guy's head rises abruptly and he looks forward, tightly clenching his teeth. The guy's eyes are wide open and full of anger. Alec rises to his feet and one of the hands is stretched over his head, in which the thunderbolt is clamped. Wind, rain, and all that sort of thing began to pour out of the thunderbolt. This is the last blow. Alec stares ahead, his brows furrowed, and his face is covered in abrasions. Alec thinks that he is no longer the same person he was 4 years ago. Now he's a useless former court magician. The guy remembers the words of the girl with short hair, who says that if he needs help, he can join them. There are only 3 of them, and they can create a new squad. The girl with long hair pulls her hand forward and says that if it's hard for Alec, he can talk to her. She is good at healing magic. The guy smiles broadly, baring his teeth, and says that anyone else besides Alec can do it all. 3 people play, attack Alec, and start tickling and hugging him. Alec is the one who always tries to shut you out. A man with a beard and long hair smiles, looks slightly to the side, and asks to show him his magic. Some guy starts laughing, saying the guy's first and last name, and says they gave him the best. Alec waves his wand. The words that passed with him through 4 years of his life changed him. Heavy rain begins to pour over the wall on which Alec and the monster are standing, and some kind of black hole has begun to tighten in the sky. Suddenly, lightning quickly flew out of this black hole. The guy doesn't want to let his friends down or disappoint them. Mabel is another guy stunned at looking up with their mouths wide open. His elbows are facing forward. His eyes and face look very tired. The monster falls to the ground. All sorts of tentacles continue to pour out of its body. Alec stretches out one of his wand hands and summons the Thunder Beast. The guy's face looks serious and tense. Suddenly, a magical creature with sharp teeth appears. Alec looks away and says just one word ahead. Sudden is the creature that Alec has summoned, attacking the monster that everyone is fighting against. The Thunder Beast is several times bigger than the boss. The boss that everyone is fighting against points his sword and jumps forward. Suddenly, the monster that everyone was fighting against crumbles into small pieces. The thunderous beast that Alec has summoned slams its mouth shut and swallows the boss. Only the sword remains of the monster. The guy's body relaxes, and he starts falling backwards. The guy falls to the floor without any signs of life. As a result, Alec looks up, continuing to lie down. He knew it. It's nice when someone depends on someone. The guy closes his eyes. A slight smile is visible on his face. He says it's not that bad. A girl with short hair hovers over a guy and asks him if he means to be addicted. The girl hopes that the guy is talking about the fact that the 4 of them started a stupid thing in the dungeon. The guy assumes a sitting position and looks at the girl's hand, which is stretched out to him. A girl with short hair helps a guy up by putting his hand on her shoulder. The guy says that Alec is completely back. The girl asks if it's true. She thinks he will show himself again. Alec is smiling. His eyes are closed with pleasure. Someone congratulates him on his return. Alec looks at the girl with short hair, who is smiling faintly, her eyes closed. The guy's friend asks if he has a victory for him. There's a smile on this guy's face. His whole body is covered in abrasions. Alec looks curiously at a friend behind him. Two girls are happy about the victory, giving each other a fist. Alec remembers his friend talking about the rules of the game. After all, whoever falls one will lose and get punished. Alec screams. He says his friend knew this and just stood there and watched him fall. His friend says that Alec is not going to take their arguments so lightly. This guy says that he's not a demon, some kind of this time. All the circumstances were against Alec, so the punishment will not be difficult. Alec closes his eyes and awkwardly says, "Thank you." A small drop of sweat runs down the guy's cheek. Alec's friend says they won't have any more secrets from each other. If a guy has problems, he should tell everyone, not keep them to himself. Alec stands and looks at his friend in a daze. His friend says that the guy should not dig his head into his problems. He can entrust their solution to them. This will be his punishment. Alec starts laughing a little and says that his friend doesn't take him seriously at all. The guy crosses his arms over his chest, says that in this case the punishment will be more serious. Alec keeps laughing and saying that in that case everything is fine. A tear of laughter drips from one of his eyes. His friend asks if this is accurate. After all, Alec could thank him for such generosity. The girls are standing and everyone is looking at it. A girl with short hair and even starts laughing. Suddenly, Loki flies up to the girls from behind, who shouts to everyone that it was a good job. Suddenly, both girls knock the guy to the floor and start kicking him. Alec is looking at it all from the outside. Loki says that he has met many different magicians, but he had never seen a spell used at the same time. In addition, first-class swordsmanship and the final touch is powerful strength. If it wasn't for them, they would all have started round 2. Loki says he defeated him thanks to the guy, but he doesn't want to fight him. Alec stands with a slight smile on his face and holds out his hand. He says Loki's plan worked and it was fun. Two guys shake hands, patting each other on the shoulder. Alec's friend turns to the girl with long hair and says that Loki said that he was the one who defeated the monster. The girl with long hair asks if this means that they owe him. The guy and the girl turn around and call their friend, asking what she thinks about it. Loki turns around, says that he understood everything and he will repay them. And unless these two, they're always fighting among themselves. Loki asks if the team wants him to prove them. Of course, he can do it. Alec asks what Loki means. The man with long hair says that recommendations for promotion to the C rank. In order to get promoted from A to S, you need a recommendation from the S rank and the approval of the guildmaster. This man apologizes for the delay and introduces himself as the leader of the Scarlet Flowers Roared. Alec awkwardly waves and greets. Suddenly, Alec was hailed by someone. Mabel jumped up to Alex and kissed him on the cheek. At the same time, thanks to him. The girl with short hair looks at it furiously. Her cheeks are covered with a slight blush, and her eyes are wide open. The girl introduces herself as Mabel, says that Alec is very strong. She asks, how about going to another dungeon? A girl with short hair shouts Mabel's name and says Alec is their Mac. A Scarlet Flowers representative says he takes full responsibility for the recommendation. Alec's friend says he doesn't care if he pisses everyone off or not, but he agrees to it. He is waiting with patience for the opportunity to work with everyone. Loki says no. The representative of the Scarlet Flowers asks the side whose Mabel is. Mabel says, is she really that untrustworthy? The team of two guys and Mabel are waving their hands thanking everyone for their help, saying that Alec's band is great. The waving team also says that they are the legendary band of Endless Day. All four friends start laughing joyfully. Their mouths are wide open with laughter, and their eyes are closed. The team starts to cheerfully leave. They are waiting for a western dungeon, a physicist, an all-flower rescue operation, and it's all done. After a while, everyone finds themselves in a small town. The girl counts the coins, says she can't believe that the team really defeated the level 68 boss. The whole guild does nothing but discuss this team. The girl says that despite all his loud speeches, the guildmaster did not have time to say something. It was really hard work. Alec says that the underground is so huge and the terrain is changing so much, and they are not happy that they could help. Alec turned around and walked away from the girl. Call her by her first name, Misha. The girl asks what the guy's plans are for today. Alec turns around to say that they have a vacation for all four of them for the first time in a long time. Alec stands there, stunned, staring ahead, a small drop of sweat trickling down his cheek. The girl with short hair says that Kraja and Ernest's stomachs are twisted. The girl with short hair thinks that she will have a rest. Not today, but another day. Alec says he just wanted her to show him the city. He offers to go together. Alec says he was so busy that he hardly saw anything except the guild. The girl with short hair agrees because she is the eldest witness and will take care of it without any problems. The girl remembers with her hair how Ernest said that he had a stomachache and he would not be able to go to the race. She says she has urgent business. A girl with short hair is following Alec. Her cheeks are covered with blush. The girl is very nervous. Alec looks at the girl and says it's time for them to hit the road. The girl agrees with this. The girl with short hair says that Exile is a city of adventurers. The girl has a big smile on her face. The girl says that weapons, armor, and other items, if someone wants to find anything at a bargain price, the market is definitely better than specialty stores. The girl says that Alec needs to beware of bad merchants. There are a lot of them. They're trying to sell low-quality goods to newcomers. The guy says he's already noticed it all. A man offers a girl a thing. This is a specialized pill that will give her 10 days of vigor for just 100 gold. The girl screams with joy and they say that she has never heard of such a pill. The girl's hand is grabbed by the guy's hand, and now he is pulling her along. The girl only manages to run after him. Alec says that he has already been to the markets, so he suggests going shopping for groceries and then walking here with everyone else. Elha looks up slightly embarrassed and agrees with the guy. Elha says that yesterday she begged Ernest and Russia to buy everything they needed, but only Ernest was busy with his swords, and Krazia was playing with some kind of toy bear. Halta shouted at them, because they both bought useless junk again and told them to hand it back. Ernest said it would all come in handy later. Krazia said that she did not buy it, but picked it up. Elha says she's ashamed that they do not even know how to manage money adequately. Alec says it means she's decided to be responsible for it now. Elha happily says that it's good that they have such a good friend like Alec. The girl notices an elven ribbon on one of the counters. She asks us what to do here with such a rare item. Alec curiously asks if this is some kind of accessory. Elha says that they increase the power of magic, and she has been looking for them for a long time. The girl looks at a small sign on which the price of 50,000 gold is written. Elha thinks about it, because it's a little over her budget, but if she doesn't buy these tapes, there may not be another chance now. At this moment, while Elha is thinking, the guy's hand reaches forward and holds out several gold coins into the palm of the seller. The girl looks up in embarrassment and asks if Alec is sure of this act. Alec says he's sure of it, because magic to a girl is half the success of his team. Elha happily thanks the guy and says that he will use these elf ribbons carefully. A guy and a girl are walking down the street. Elfa says that they did this in fortune-telling. They put their money together and bought a potion. The beautiful one tried to cook her own, but it didn't work out. Elha and Alec took a break for a snack. And after that, we went to the big library, where we study books. A cat and a guy stand on a high tower and look forward with delight. Alec says he can see the whole path leading to the dungeon. He asks if Alfaisal likes it. Alec says it's fun here. The city is lively and different from Garden. He really feels like an intourist. Who's knocking? I'm going to knock on the head. Elha stares at the guy. The girl says that she wants to hear an answer from him again. She hopes that it will not be selfish on her part. The girl says that when they met again in Cardan, she invited him to join the group. He quit his job as a court magician and went with them. That's why the girl sometimes worries about it, whether I'm overexerting myself too much. Alec says that he is sure that there are no completed cases left in the townspeople. He says he's very pathetic and he's still upset about it. Alec looks away and says that he really thinks that striving to become the strongest, as Ernest would say, it's not a bad idea right now. Besides, Elha and Krazia are all back together. The girl wipes her face and says that they didn't let each other fall apart. Alec laughs and says it's the first time he's heard about it. The girl says it's all because she just said it. After all, she's the leader now, and endless days won't be able to exist without the four of them. Elha says that she is very glad Alec is one of those people who are able to keep everyone else. Alec Pisces looks at the girl with a smile and says that he just wanted her to know how he really feels. The girl looks forward with delight. Her cheeks are covered with even more blush. Alec starts talking, and the girl asks what he wants to tell her. The girl's cheeks are still covered with a slight blush. Alec says that he lost the argument with Ernest, and at the end of the argument, he promised him that he would talk to him about his problems. The girl begins to smile broadly, where she begins to blush even more. Alec awkwardly says that this is a promise between a man, and apologizes for dragging the girl into this. Elha turns away, and the guy asks what happened to her, if she has a stomachache. The girl says that everything is fine. The team returns back, and they saw the stab. It shocked them, and they stared at this man in surprise. The team began to approach the man with long hair and beard. The man, seeing the girl and the guy, says that they have finally returned. Alec asks if the man wanted to see them. The man says, "It's only about guys." The man looks sideways at Alec and says he has a visitor. This visitor is waiting for him in the old house. The man says that while this man is inside, he will say something. Perhaps this person is not the most pleasant for Alec. Alder comes forward and asks if someone is waiting for Alec. The faces of the two cow teammates look tense. Elha continues to ask questions and asks if this man is an old friend and from Garden or him. The man says that Alec should go to this person already, otherwise it starts to get on his nerves. Alec grabs the door handle and pulls it away from him slowly, entering a bright room. A tall man with long and black hair stands in front of the door. He stares ahead. Alec recognizes this man as Ciro Bogdan. The guy doesn't understand what a noble from Gordon is doing here. Alec bows and says he's glad to meet you, because they haven't seen each other for a long time. Servan asks if Alec is the messenger. The guy's eyes widen. The man says that Alec has long intended to take someone's life, and why he did not tell this man about it. Alec closes his eyes slightly and thinks that this man already knows about everything. Alec straightens up and says, "With all due respect, does this man really think that Alec is the kind of person who would do such a thing?" This man lowers his head and exhales. He agrees with the guy's words and says that he seems to be very unlucky. Alec says he had doubts too, but they took him into the group anyway as a magician. The man turns his head sharply and stares ahead. He asks again about the magician and says that Alec is wrong about this. The man says that this man's wounds have already completely healed, and he was already going to teach him the mind of reason. But he can't even deal with Alec. The man says that on top of everything else, on the same day he performs the export function. Alec asks again, surprised. He asks if His Highness is here now. The man grins, and he says that this man wants to finish one thing. The man reaches into his secret pocket and pulls out a letter. He says that His Majesty the King gave it to him. It seems that Alec took a liking to the royal family. Alec stares at this letter and is silent. The guy calmly asks if this is a royal decree. The man says he was told it was a petition. Forgiveness for his son, if the man is not mistaken. It was an apology. Alec asks you to tell his lordship that 4 years is quite a long time, but he did Alec a great favor. Alec asks where His Highness is now. The man speaks in the underground arena, as some bearded man called her. The man says it's very stupid, and he thinks it's complete nonsense and a waste of time. Alec asks if the man is serious right now. The classroom is downstairs. Alec turns around and goes to the exit. Elha calls him. Elha asks if the guy is okay. The girl's face looks very worried. Alec turns around and says with a smile on his face that he will only settle the score. The guy goes up the stairs, tells Elha to wait for him and not go anywhere. In a large arena underground, where there is a lot of dust, there is a man in the middle. Alec stares ahead, with Sir Vognan behind him. This man says that his father said that the kingdom should change the status quo. This man says that since His Majesty the King thinks so, then this man says that it is the right thing to do. Suddenly, this guy abruptly turns around and clenching his teeth, says that this is the only solution for him. This guy points his finger and says that they are the chosen ones from birth and do not understand why they should listen to someone's nonsense. The guy does not understand why his father refused him, and why he is exposing him now. Does his father really think that the 15 years he lived were not a lie? And asks his father not to pretend to be a fool. This guy is shouting that no one should play with him, that he should play with anyone but not with him. Suddenly, this guy was exhausted and began to breathe quickly. Sweat began to flow from the guy's face, and a tear poured out of one eye. Alec stands with his back straight and looks at it from the side. This guy starts screaming again. He says he doesn't understand anything, that people like everyone else have to die. He turns to his father again and says that no one will ever understand what he feels. Alec says he doesn't know anything. He doesn't even know how this guy feels. He doesn't know why he can't accept this fact. Alec says that's all he can say. This guy is wrong about everything. This guy says that Alec didn't listen to a word of what he just said. This guy stopped trying to explain anything to Alec. Now they will finally talk here. This guy starts screaming and asks if Alec wants him to listen to his nonsense. This guy says that Alec needs to stop playing with him and calls the guy a commoner. Alec calmly looks ahead and says that they are not that much different. The guy waves his hand and says he won't change his mind and won't accept it. This guy doesn't see a single reason for this replacement. This guy turns to Pierre Waganand, asks him to keep his word to himself. This guy categorically denies the need for all these changes right here, right now. He will prove it with his own hands. This guy says he's not wrong. Why are you the guy holding his swords out and saying that Alec has to accept his duel? Alec continues to stand still while an unknown guy rushes at the guy at breakneck speed. This guy is staring straight ahead. Sir Vaughn continues to stand against the wall with his arms crossed over his chest. Alec turns around and, frowning, looks slightly to the side. Suddenly, the guy attacks with his two swords. Alec manages to block this attack. The guy raises his swords again in order to launch an attack. Alec notices something. It surprises him. The guy asks and at the same time continues to strike blow after blow, which surprises Alec so much it's not the first time he's seen an ancient relic. Alec stares ahead. He began to recall the events that happened with this guy. An unknown guy holds a long sword in his hands and looks forward. He asks if anyone wants him to use another weapon. Alec stands nearby and says that this sword is too heavy for the guy's body weight, and small paired swords would be convenient to handle. The guy asks to see his sword. His sword is made by the best craftsman of King's Landing. It is no longer just a weapon, but a work of art. Alec remembers the Dauphin, who was so reverent about his past weapons and did not even allow him to recommend something else. Alec lets out a short laugh and continues to stare ahead, his lips slightly parted. A guy named Dolphin continues to attack Alec. Alec manages to successfully dodge any guy's attack. In the end, the Dolphin flew to the side and fell himself. Alec continues to stand on two legs and only watches the Dolphin. Alec turns to Sir Vaughn and asks if this is his doing. The guy asks the sire what he did to his highness. Sir Vaughn says that Alec does not need to deny the Dolphin's successes, but only to make sure of them. That's all a man can say. The man looks forward, slightly lowering his head and crossing his arms over his chest. He says that he does not understand the Dauphin. Since he is so stubborn, then he needs to justify it. The Dauphin gets to his feet, holding his small swords in both hands. The man says that the Dauphin is the only one of his kind who strives to achieve everything himself. The guy looks ahead and exhales. Alec says that everyone can envy the Dauphin's stubbornness. Suddenly, the Dauphin sends Alec away and takes off. The Dauphin continues to strike again. Alec continues to block them, holding only one thin wand in his hands. The Dauphin looks up and down. His eyebrows are furrowed, and his lips are tightly closed. Alec notices something again. His eyes widen. The Dauphin hits from below because of the height difference. In this way, the guy could cut any person. The Dauphin attacks Alec again, but he steps back, fighting back with his wand. Sir Vaughn asks if anyone thinks any of the guys are that stupid. Vaughn doesn't like idiots who sit at the top. He doesn't like fools who do nothing but talk. Sir Vaughn says he taught the Dauphin how to wield a sword so that he could fight Alec. The Dauphin rushes forward and thrusts his swords forward, striking Gladian. Something broke and some broken stones began to fly from Alec. Alec is not scared, on the contrary. A faint smile appears on his face. One of the swords entered something and a crack started from it. A circle appeared around Alec, with a star in the center. Alec is holding a wand in his hands, and debris is flying on either side of him. The Dauphin stands and looks ahead, breathing heavily. He learns the magic of support. The Dauphin understands what all this was for and why he is still alive. The Dauphin begins to talk about the reason why he is still alive, but does not finish. Alec says that His Majesty Emperor Meirin ordered him to protect the Dauphin. After the guy chased Alec away, he continued to make his way to the 30th level of the dungeon. He couldn't do anything but run. He was wounded and defeated. The Dolphin says that one day he read a memorandum that was left by Alec himself. Alec thought about it and asked again about the memorandum. The Dolphin says that the corrosive but perfect memorandum was right. Not only about the dungeon, but the Dolphin's behavior was completely calculated. The Dolphin considered himself a genius. The guy asks if Vaughn told Alec all about it. The Dolphin rejects Alec and wants to end it all. The Dolphin points at Alec and asks what he did to him. The Dolphin says it's not Vaughn, but Alec, because he's a genius. The Dolphin repeats again that he rejects Alec. The Dolphin orders Alec to get out his ancient relics. Alec closed his eyes, while the Dolphin continued to tell him about the relics. Alec says the destruction of heaven and earth, and suddenly a big sword appears in Alec's hands. The guy holds it tightly in his hands. Alec says that the Dolphin already knows that he is not as good as he is, but he continues to do it anyway. Alec asks permission to ask about one thing. Does His Majesty really think that the kingdom should change the status quo? The Dolphin says that his father wanted to see what commoners were capable of, which is why he sent the Dolphin to this dungeon with Alec. The Dolphin says that Alec was used as a stumbling block for the Dolphin's father to make a decision. Alec says it makes perfect sense. Only the king treated him like his own son. The Dolphin says that Lake is terribly offended, but now he knows the reason. Alec says it's the other way around. All 4 years, which he considered useless, were worth much more. This is the best reward Alec could have ever dreamed of. The Dolphin looks ahead in surprise. Sir Vaughn raised his gaze questioningly and also began to look ahead. Alec takes a more comfortable grip on the hilt of the sword and says that everything is fine. Alec strikes a pose, his legs spread wide and his sword arms lowered. The Dolphin and Sir Vaughn look ahead in surprise. Their eyes are wide open and their eyebrows are raised high. Alec stares ahead and says he's starting to attack. He calls the word Regulus. This angers the Dolphin more. A drop of sweat began to descend down his cheek, and a drop of tears flowed from his eyes. Sir Vaughn is standing against the wall, arms crossed over his chest, looking ahead. No matter how much one of the guys shouts, "I deny," or "I don't understand," he still can't do anything. The upbringing and values of the Dolphin are his punishment. The Dolphin himself is lying on the ground, his lips tightly compressed. The guy is crawling forward. The Dolphin continues to sit on the floor and looks up in fright. Alec is standing next to him and has his sword raised behind his back, about to strike. The Dolphin came here to be beaten. Suddenly, Alec lowers his sword. Next to the place where the Dolphin was, there is now a big explosion. Sir Vaughn's eyes widen when all this happens. Alec stands with his sword lowered, dust hanging in the air on either side of him. The sharp tip of the sword lies next to the Dolphin. The guy is unharmed. The Dolphin asks why Alec did this. Suddenly, the Dolphin begins to scream and asks the reason why Alec Jugret left him alive. The Dolphin assumes that Alec felt sorry for him. The Dolphin gets to his feet and asks what he did to Alec. The Dolphin says that Lake does not respect him and has never respected him. The Dolphin falls to the ground again and says that he does not know what to do. Alec stands nearby and looks at the Dolphin. The Dolphin, lowering his head, says that he does not know who he is. The Dolphin clenches his teeth. Tears flow down his face. The guy asks what he should do next and what is good and what is evil. The Dolphin says he understands nothing, knows nothing, and knows how to do nothing. The Dolphin began to cry harder. He believed in himself, but in the end, he still ended up in this place. And Alec, as always, turned out to be right. Alec stands and looks down at the guy. Sympathy is visible in his eyes. The Dolphin says he thought if Alec had hurt him or something had happened to him, his father would have changed his mind. The Dolphin continues to lie on the ground, unlocking himself with his hands. It was the only way he could be himself. The Dolphin raises his head and looks up. There are tears in his eyes. He asks why Alec is looking at him like that. The Dolphin suddenly started screaming again. He orders Alec to tell him who he is and what to do. Alec stands and calmly asks why the Dolphin is asking him this question. The Dolphin's eyes widen as he looks at Alec. Alec lets out a short laugh. The guy says he doesn't want to laugh at other people's misfortune. This life is just the Dolphin. Alec says he only came here to make fun of the Dolphin. Alec thought that they would only throw obscene words at themselves. Alec was very angry himself. As a result, Alec receives life advice from the dolphin. The dolphin himself continues to sit on the floor and look up. Alec keeps talking. It all seems strange to him, and he even felt funny. The dolphin looks up curiously. Suddenly, the dolphin lowers his head, tightly closing his eyes. The dolphin apologizes, clenching his teeth tightly. Alec's eyes widen after hearing this. The guy asks again. The dolphin starts screaming. He says it was bad and asks if Alec is happy now. Alec scratches his cheek and says he's not being sarcastic. You just don't need to ask him what to do next because he doesn't know himself. Alec says that all his life they've been doing is saving him. He doesn't know who he is, or what choice he made. Alec says that these are not the kind of things that you need to trust others to solve. Alec looks ahead, and with a slight smile on his face, tells the dolphin to make the right decision himself. The dolphin sits on the floor and says he's fine, but he doesn't know why he's talking to Alec. The dolphin turns to Servon, who's standing aside, and asks the man to give him something. The next moment, the dolphin holds out a mantle clutched in his hands. The dolphin says that he is returning this thing. He had it all the time. The dolphin also holds out a letter. He tells Alec to read the letter that the dolphin's father wrote. The place of court magician is always free for Alec. The dolphin says that the king also wishes to apologize personally. The dolphin finally asks to take the mantle, which is still in his hands. Alec says he doesn't need this robe anymore. Alec also hands a letter back to the guy. Alec says that the group he joined doesn't want to part with him, especially since he can't go back, no matter how much he wants to. The dolphin abruptly turns away from the guy and makes some kind of incomprehensible sound. The guy goes to the exit and tells the man that they are returning to King's Landing and he has no reason to stay here anymore. The guy asks how Alec can show such disrespect for hospitality, His Majesty. Alec looks ahead with a smile on his face and asks if it's too late for the dolphin to talk about it, because he's a simple commoner. The dolphin clenches his teeth and, turning around, says that he does not like Alec. Alec's face lights up with a smile. The two guys are splitting up. Alec says he doesn't like the dolphin either, and now he's glad they're on the same wavelength. The action takes place in a small house. Suddenly, a loud voice is heard from the house, calling Alec. Alec Jugret continues to sleep, covering his eyes with a book. Ernest glares at his friend with a toothbrush in his mouth. Suddenly, Ernest knocks the blanket out from under Alec. Alec quickly jumps up, all his books flying to the floor. Ernest says that if Alec doesn't get up now, he'll hit him. Alec looks at his book, which is lying on the floor. Ernest says that Alec needs to change his reading habits before morning. Alec tilts his head back and scratches the back of his head, while apologizing to his friend. Ernest tells Alec to get up, wash, and eat, because adventurers always get up early in the morning. Alec eats his breakfast and says that his friend is very strange. Alec hands over his breakfast, and as he says, it's part of the daily routine and suggests doing it all after breakfast. Ernest turns to his friend and says with a smile on his face that this is what he says. The whole team gathered on a small field and held their training session. Alec fights against Ernest with swords. Elhae turns back and looks ahead. Behind her, a girl with long hair is practicing with a bow. She asks if the guys don't think fighting in the morning is a bad idea. Ernest says it's a melee weapon, that it's a real combat weapon. Alec says that there is a 4-year difference in combat experience between him and his friend. This makes a big gap between them. Ernest dodges Alec's attack, while Alec says that this gap between them needs to be reduced. Alec holds his sword above his head, blocking his friend's attack. Ernest shouts the word, "Let's go." A fight's beginning in this area. Without, he tries to block all attacks coming at him, and Ernest attacks every time. The eyes of two friends meet in front of each other. Both guys are very serious, and neither of them is going to lose. Suddenly, Alec attacks a friend and is able to hit a friend's sword and breaks into 2 parts. 2 girls look at it all with surprise. A piece of a broken ball falls to the grandfather's side. Ernest asks what their difference in experience is because Alec is a real monster. Alec says how his friend can deviate from him so much all the time, and so he thought that, at least today, he could beat him. Ernest says that Alec needs another 100 years of study to defeat someone like him in a duel. Next time he offers to fight with ancient relics. Ella gets between 2 friends. says enough, because getting seriously injured in training is bad. Loki shows up and says he's impressed that they sweat and work out in the morning. Loki says that he, an S-rank holder, can personally train them if they don't mind, of course. The whole team turned to Loki and looked at him. The whole team turned around and went the other way from Loki. The girl with long hair asked if they practiced team fighting on the lower floors. Ernest said that he wanted to reach level 66 as soon as possible. A small card appears in Loki's hands. Loki says that he is the one who has established the team in S rank. Ernest and Elsa turn around abruptly and stare dumbfounded ahead, their mouths wide open. Yorha began to climb up to Loki, trying to get this card. Loki asks if she really needs it so much. Loki doesn't even know if it's worth giving it away. Suddenly, Loki gets hit on the head by someone's hand. Krista stands behind the guy and asks if Loki is a child. Alec and Elsa look at the girl in surprise. They recognize her as the head of the group. Krista apologizes for Loki and says that they are here to deliver it on behalf of the guildmaster. Krista holds out the card. The team began to read it from Elhai's hands. This card says that the Little Rose recommends the Endless Days group for promotion. This is approved by the guildmaster of Exile. Elsa suddenly begins to shout joyfully. Her eyes are squeezed shut. Ernest comes up to Yorha and asks her to let him see. Alec stands to the side and looks at the two people with a smile on his face. Krista turns to Alec. She says that shrink parties are allowed to participate in the Arcady dungeon. This dungeon is even more dangerous and more difficult than those that Alec had seen before. Krista reaches out to Alec and says that if they get into trouble, then they need to contact them and they will come to their aid. Alec smiles weakly and looks ahead. In the end, the guy also holds out his hand, and they shake hands. Alec says he'll keep that in mind. Loki turns to Yorha and says that since they are all srank, they need to celebrate and have dinner. Yorha agrees with the guy. Alec and Ernest said they both didn't mind and were pretty hungry. Loki says that there is no problem, only he will leave them, as he has a couple of unfinished business. Krista looks ahead and says that Loki has no plans or business. Two guys took Loki under their armpits and dragged him in the other direction. The guy says that Krista is very funny. After a while, Alec, Ernest, and Yorha are walking along an empty street. Ernest says that he ate too much and that rank is the best. Alec, carrying Yorha on his back, says that Loki shed tears at the end. Ernest says that Kraja ate several times more than the guys themselves and left. Alec says that the girl with long hair is a real demon. Alec turns back and looks at the sleeping woman on his back and says that the girl has drunk a lot. Ernest says it's fun. Ernest has a toothpick in his mouth. Ernest says that Yorha was glad they got the S rank. It's also great that Alec stayed with them and did not go to the king. Alec looks at his friend, a small drop trickling down his cheek. The guy awkwardly asks Ernest not to talk about it. Ernest says that only Alec and Yorha can do something. If only Ernest was here, he would beat Alec. Alec suggests going with him next time, somewhere else. Kraja stands with her arm outstretched, which is wrapped in a circle with a star in the center and calls for healing magic. The man's body is completely covered with various abrasions. Suddenly, all the wounds disappear from the man's body, and he exhales. The girl approaches Kraja and thanks the girl. There are a lot of wounded people in the hospital, and there are not enough healers. Kraja says that everything is fine, and she was happy to help. Kraja looks away and says that there are really a lot of wounded here. The girl asks if these people were in a joint raid. The man whom Kraja healed addresses her by name and asks if the girl really didn't hear anything. The man says that they were attacked not by demons, but by people from a criminal group that attacks adventurers, and its name is the Dark Guild. Alec is in a large library where people are present. The guy holds a book in his hands and examines it carefully. This book, with notes about the Arcadia dungeon, this book is exactly what the guy was looking for. Alec sits down at the table and thinks that he has 4 years without any experience. He needs to consolidate his knowledge in order to catch up with the team. The young guy puts his head on the table and looks forward. The guy addresses Alec as a coon and says that he is a hard worker. Alec raises his gaze and looks ahead with interest. Alec asks if the guy is talking to him. The guy calls Alec's first and last name and says he's been waiting for him all day. Alec apologizes to the guy. He was too focused on books. Alec says he doesn't know the guy's name. The guy did not introduce himself, but says that there is a cafe with a terrace next to the library. The guy thoughtfully says that there is a wonderful parfait in that cafe, and he likes sweets. After a while, Alec and this guy are sitting in a cafe. Alec is holding a cup in his hands, and the guy is already eating his fourth cup. The guy turns to the waitress and asks her to bring 5 more special Katsushika parfaits. Alec is surprised to ask why the guy hasn't eaten yet. Alec takes a sip from his cup and says he doesn't know if the guy wants to make fun of him, but he asks to get down to business. The waiter brings 5 portions of special parfait, which the guy recently ordered. The guy happily thanks the girl. The guy puts a large piece of parfait in his mouth and starts chewing it quickly and then swallowed it. The guy holds out his hand and introduces himself. His name is Luog. He is a member of the S-rank Nameless Squad. Suddenly, Alec chokes on his drink. Luog says that Alec has a good reaction, and Alec turned out to be a good guy. Luog says that he heard that the squad that Alec is in recently returned from a raid and received an S-rank. Luog just wanted to find out who Alec is. Alec sits and looks ahead without any smile. He asks what will happen in the end now. What Luog was able to understand in just one meeting. Luog says that Alec is wonderful and perfect for fixing all the flaws. Luog says that they are now in the very center of the maze and offers to join them and help them clean it up. Somewhere else in the hospital, the girl with long hair turns abruptly and asks about another victim. The copy goes after Leviel. The man says that the wounded woman is called Olivia, and she is from the Nameless Squad. The girl was attacked by the Dark Guild when she was alone. Kraja asks if the girl is badly injured. Leviel turns his head back slightly and says that the girl is injured enough, and she will not be able to return to her squad for a while. A man and a girl with long hair enter a small room. A girl is lying on the bed, completely bandaged up. The girl continues to lie with her eyes closed. Kraja leans towards the girl. Leviel says he's sorry to have to ask Kraja for this. Kraja says that everything is fine. Kraja pushes aside the bandages and looks at the wounds that are received from swords all over her body. Kraja assumes that she is dealing with a swordsman. Kraja brings her hand to Olivia's face and checks her breathing. First, Kraja would like to treat the wounds so that the girl could withstand a large amount of magical power. Kraja realizes that she will need to stay the night, and she wants to contact Elha. Suddenly, Kraja's hand is intercepted. Olivia opened her eyes. She still holds Kraja's hand and asks where they are now. Kraja looks at the girl in surprise and says that they are in the guild. Kraja was asked by the guildmaster to heal Olivia. Kraja asks if Olivia remembers what happened. Kraja heard that Olivia was attacked by the Dark Guild in the dungeon. Olivia's bandaged hand suddenly clutches the sheets underneath her. Olivia takes a sitting position and talks about the traitor. Olivia sits hunched over in pain. Kraja says that if a girl wants to live, then she needs to stay here. Olivia orders her wounds to be healed. Olivia turns her gaze to the side and asks if Kraja is here to help. Olivia says she needs to help her team. Kraja waves her head in denial. Olivia looks at Kraja in surprise, standing in front of her. Kraja says that if Olivia strains herself in this state, she will get worse. Kraja says that Olivia seems to have an S rank, but she doesn't know the basics of magic. Olivia suddenly rushes to Kraja and says that she is a support magician and asks what Kraja knows about swordsmen. Suddenly, Olivia's arms relax and she lets go of Kraja's clothes. Olivia falls unconscious on the bed. Kraja looks at Olivia and exhales. Kraja takes off her gloves, helping with her teeth. Kraja squeezes water from a cloth. The girl put Olivia in a normal position and began to wash. Kraja notices that Olivia is covered not only with new wounds, but also with old ones. Kraja assumes that this girl has been through a lot. Olivia Nameless must have been one of Fiesel's best swordsmen. Kraja wonders how strong the enemy is, since he was able to defeat Olivia. Kraja holds out her hand, remembering Olivia's words about the traitor. Kraja is standing over Olivia. A bright light is visible. Kraja rewinds Olivia's leg. There are dishes next to what Kraja uses to treat wounds. Kraja once again directs her magic at Olivia. Bright light flows from her hands. Kraja's tense face, from which a large amount of sweat is dripping. Kraja enters the room with a small suitcase. Everyone vaccinates the girl. Kraja greets everyone. Kraja is thanked by a man for yesterday's treatment. Kraja holds onto the door handle and pulls it towards her. The girl calls Olivia and says that she is entering the room. Olivia is sitting on the bed and counting something. Olivia is waving her sword and Leviel is sitting next to her. Krazia turns to Leviel and says that since he is a guild master, he needs to tell Olivia to stop doing this. Leviel points his finger at Olivia and says she's not listening to him. Leviel says he's only here to talk, but Olivia hasn't said a word to him about the Dark Guild. Krazia turns to Olivia and asks her to tell her who attacked the girl. Olivia continues to sit on the bed and remain silent. Olivia closes her eyes and says that she refuses to tell anything because it's all her fault. Olivia says it doesn't matter because her legs still don't work properly. Leviel says Krazia can help others. Krazia turns to the guildmaster and says that she is here treating Olivia and tells the man to leave here. The guildmaster gets to his feet and leaves the room. There is a circle around Olivia's leg with a star in the center. Krazia helps Olivia to lie down on the bed and says that after resting, Olivia will be able to walk as before, if she does not do rash things. Olivia looks sadly ahead and says that Krazia is not listening to her at all. Olivia is talking about that case. Krazia says she's doing everything she can. If she is asked, she will do it, and if she fails, she will ask someone else. Krazia says that people think that the girl is good at this business, although in fact Krazia is just living her life. Suddenly, Olivia makes a bow to Krazia without getting out of bed. Olivia apologizes to Krazia. Olivia knows she said a lot of terrible things, but she was helpless then, and now she's saved. Krazia stares ahead. Olivia says that one day she will be able to repay Krazia's debt. Suddenly, Krazia takes Olivia's head and brings it to her mouth, gently kissing the top of Olivia's surprised head. Olivia moves away from Krazia and asks why she did it. Olivia's face looks outraged and scared at the same time. Krazia, with a slight smile on her face, says that this is the magic of relaxation, and it acts like the magic of healing. The spell that stops tears. Olivia's mother was really good at this spell. Krazia holds out a small bowl of liquid and tells Olivia to drink it. Krazia says it's from the pain. The girl wishes Olivia a restful sleep, because her wounds will heal faster this way. Olivia is holding a bowl of liquid that Krazia gave her. Olivia gives Krazia's first and last name. Suddenly something breaks and small pieces fly in all directions. Olivia says she is very sorry. At the same moment in the house where the team lives, Elha and Ernest look ahead in surprise, asking about the raid. Alec stands in front of his friends and says that the guy's name is Luog and he's from Nameless. Alec also said that he would think about the guy's proposal. Ernest says he's sure Luog caught Alec off guard, but there was no way to talk about the guy's real age. Elha says that Luog is from the family of elves and he is that rare type of guy who can masterfully wield a sword. Alec thinks about it and says that since Luog is an elf, then everything is not surprising. Ernest asks if Luog has given details about the dungeon called the Labyrinth. Alec remembers Luog in the cafe. He says they go to level 72 right before the bottom. They are going to defeat the floor monster and get to the bottom of the dungeon core. They also want to get the lowest level core. Alec's eyes widen when he hears about the low level. Luog asks if this is a bad thing. The guy says he can give them the dungeon core. Luog says that actually, he is someone he needs to deal with, and he's already doing it. Luog says he hopes Alec's team agrees. Luog puts a small ball on the table and asks me to say hello to everyone. Alec is holding this ball, which is the core of the dungeon. Ernest is surprised that Luog went to the bottom and just gave the core to Alec. Ernest steps back and says that Alec is very good. Alec agrees with his friend. Ohei asks if Ernest is saying that I can set them up. Elha says that Luog has gathered all the nameless ones together and she doesn't think he could lie. The girl's face looks calm. She looks up a little. Ernest, with a straight face, offers to go and ask the nameless participant who is in the hospital about everything. Elha asks if Ernest is talking about Olivia, and the girl is injured. Alec says the girl should have been patched up by now. Elha goes and is outraged that the S rank is lagging behind the Dark Guild. The girl assumes that they are using them to their advantage. Misha, seeing the team, started calling Ella, saying that she just wanted to call her. Misha's face looks scared and worried. Ohei runs up to Misha and asks what happened. Misha says it's about Mrs. Krazia. Alec notices something and stares at it intently. Somewhere to the side, Ernest approaches Krazia, who walks weakly and tells the guy to get out of the way, because she needs to hurry. Crasha suddenly falls, and she is caught by Alec, who calls the girl by name and asks if she is okay. The girl's face looks exhausted and very tired. Her cheeks are covered with blush. Elhe runs up to Crasha and asks what happened to the girl. Crasha says that everything is fine. She was just slightly hurt by the potion. Crasha lowers her head and says that Olivia has left, and the girl thinks that she went to the dungeon. Ernest asks, "What's the big deal?" Crasha gets angry and says that Olivia is still injured and unable to fight. Ernest asks again, "What's the big deal?" Crasha says that the dungeons have become more dangerous because of the Dart Guild, and Olivia is an S-rank swordsman, and they can meet face-to-face many times. Ernest says that even if it does happen, it's none of their business. The guy says it doesn't look like Crasha. Crasha turns away, her face covered with sweat and blush. Crasha turns her head and looks straight ahead, pronouncing the word traitor. Crasha says that Olivia told her that the people in the dungeon were not only from the Dark Guild, it was those people who hurt Olivia, as if she were a beginner. Crasha says she knew this would happen. Olivia survived only because she was rescued. Crasha confidently goes to the exit and says that she will no longer participate in this, and it will be better to act alone. Along with Crasha, Elha, and Alec also come out of the door, walking along the side of the girl. Alec says that if this is about Crasha, it's about him. Elha says with a smile on her face that everyone is so smart and it's time for them to take on the role of leader. Ernest goes and looks straight ahead. He says that he was just heading to the dungeon, so they can drop into the maze. Crasha pretends that she did not hear the guy. This angers him even more, and he tells the girl not to gloat. Crasha starts laughing happily. Ernest points his hand forward and says that they are going to the maze of the dungeon and will look for the missing paints. The team is in their house and is gathering. Alec silently puts on his jacket over all his clothes. Alec lists everything he took, namely a notebook, potions, and food. Ernest screams that it's all wrong and he's already found what he needs. Ernest throws something and calls Alec. Alec catches it and looks at his friend in surprise. Ernest says that this is a secret weapon and it needs to be protected. The team stands in front of the entrance to the southwest dungeon, also known as the Labyrinth. Ernest says it's another dirty place. Behind him are Alec, Elhe, and Crasha. Elha says that inside this dungeon is full of various spatial magical traps. This dungeon is a real maze. Mabel says that because of those teleports inside, everyone can get lost and they need some kind of balanced team like them. Suddenly, Mabel is too close to Alec and holds his hand, asking if she is right or wrong. Elha is surprised to ask why Mabel is here. Mabel, as if nothing had happened, says that she is here to see Alec. Mabel says she's joking and was asked by Lual to take part in a joint raid of nameless and endless days. Livia says that Mabel is replacing Olivia. Mabel says with a smile that they are both S-rank swordsmen. Mabel approaches Alec's face, and she says that she wants to see Alec's magic again, because it is very bright. Elha stands between the guy and the girl and pushes them apart from each other. Elha gets angry and says that Olivia has left and asks what Lualg is doing. Mabel says there are no footprints. That's how they are, nameless. Alec looks ahead questioningly. Ernest says that this is just a group of people where everyone is self-sufficient both in terms of class and character. Although the nameless ones have a leader, the participants mostly act alone. They don't care who is where, except when they're clearing dungeons. Mabel says that Olivia is exactly the same, and she is also very quiet and calm. Ernest says Mabel is the loudest. Mabel lowers her head and says that Olivia is often misunderstood, and she is actually a very nice girl. Mabel remembers how she sat on the ground, and Olivia stood next to the sword and said that it wasn't funny that Mabel was following her around. Mabel says that Olivia is an excellent swordsman and asks to teach her interesting things. Olivia apologizes and says that she usually works alone, and in Nameless, she only wants to get into the dungeon. Mabel comes closer to Olivia and suggests they go together next time. Mabel asks if she's right that this is a great idea. Olivia thinks about it and says that if it's about working moments, then it really sounds good. Mabel jumps back and joyfully shouts what Olivia promised, and Mabel says that they will meet tomorrow in the central dungeon. Mabel says that the next morning Olivia was standing like a bayonet near the dungeon. Elha and Alec say it's very cute. Mabel says she feels that Olivia is in a lot of pain right now. She is her best friend, and knows what she is talking about. Mabel looks ahead and asks Alec to help her find her friend Olivia. Alec smiles and tells Mabel to rely on him. Ernest says it's time for them to go ahead. The guy points to Yorha and says it's time to take over all the responsibilities. Alec agrees with his friend. Yorha asks Alec to wait. Krasiya turns away when Yorha speaks to her. She asks Krasiya to stop pretending like she doesn't know what's going on. Ernest says that since Yorha is the leader of the group, she should cheer up the team. Alec says it's almost like a ritual. LA looks away and says that this is the first and last time, because it confuses her a little. Elhae turns away and clears her throat. Suddenly, Elhao started screaming that they would break all hearts and endless days ahead. Behind her, the whole team smiles happily and raises their hands. The team entered the dungeon of the Faisal Labyrinth and is now on the 72nd floor in the Temple of Taros. Ernest turns to Krasiya and asks what she's doing and tells them to move on. Krasiya says she's concentrating. Elsa says that Loki taught her teleportation magic and she is going to create a teleporter for everyone. Even if they split up because of the traps, they can always go back. Krasiya is sitting on a circle with a star in the center. Ernest lets out a short laugh and says that Krasiya needs to calm down. Otherwise, she started crying like a little child. Suddenly, Krasiya attacks Ernest from the foot. He does not have time to dodge, and Krasiya hits him right in the face. Elha and Alec stare at it all in a daze, their mouths and eyes wide open in surprise. Ernest falls to the floor and slides to the farthest distance from Krasiya. Ernest gets on a circle with a star in the center. Alec suddenly starts screaming that this is a spatial trap and calls his friend by name. Ernest continues to lie on the floor with his eyes closed. Alec runs to his friend and stretches out his hand to him, only he himself gets into the magic circle and one of his legs begins to glow. Two girls are looking at the center, where Alec and Ernest recently stood. Now there is an outbreak and no one is there. Alec looks ahead and sees the monsters, who also turn to the guy who had just appeared. Alec covers his face with his hand and continues to stand in place, right in the middle of all the monsters. Alec says he ruined everything. Suddenly, all the monsters made a loud sound and began attacking Alec. Alec uses his wand and summons lightning bolt magic. Alec defends himself from a multitude of monsters by using lightning discharge magic again. Lightning strikes the monsters. One monster attacks Alec from behind. The guy doesn't see him. Suddenly, something pierces through the monster's head. Alec turns around and sees Krasiya next to him, who is attacking monsters with her bow. A girl with long hair approaches a guy and says that his secret weapon came in handy sooner than she thought. Alec knows that. Mobius rings are a magical device that prevents two people who wear this pair from separating. No matter how far Alec goes, he will not part with Krasiya. Alec says he didn't expect to be separated from the girl and the others there soon. The girl with long hair laughs briefly and says if the guy is really worried about Elha. A girl with long hair leans forward and, looking askance at the guy, asks if he is unhappy that he stayed with her. Alec awkwardly began to say that this was not all, and so the girl understood. The girl with long hair laughs and says she was just joking. Krasiya says that Elha will be fine, and Ernest is only good at fighting. The girl with long hair has a faint smile on her face. The guy and the girl went forward. The girl says that they have just fallen into the most terrible trap. The guy asks for forgiveness. Many different monsters with armor on their heads or on their bodies attack a guy and a girl. One of them shouts the word switch. They fight with their backs to each other. The guy and the girl continue to fight, fighting off all the monsters that attack them. Krasiya waves her ball and says the word next, beckoning, as if to another monster. Alec turns to the girl and praises her for the work she has done. The guy says that the girl has mastered the magic sword well. The girl with long hair says that you can't use support magicians in this dungeon. The girl attacks one of the monsters, which climbs up to her and cuts off his head. His head flies high from the body. Krasiya turns around and says she's not going to die. She doesn't want one guy to laugh at her because she lags behind all the others. Alec looks at the girl and says that he has never laughed at her. The girl with long hair turns to the guy and says that the guy is not so good at this either. He did not always use the magic of support. The guy says that the girl already knew everything. Krasiya says that it's arrogance to talk like that when the skills of eating are not far behind Elhi. The guy turns his head away and with a smile on his face will leave the girl not to talk about it because he has never been good as an elf. Alec sits down on the floor and says that since they fell into this trap, it's not the worst thing that happened to him. A guy and a girl notice bandages on the floor. One of them says that Olivia is already too close. At the same moment, Elha and Ernest run away from the army of monsters. The girl asks, why was it necessary to open this door? Because it was clear that it was a trap. The guy says that if the door was closed, he was obliged to open it. The girl with short hair swings her staff and calls for protection magic. The girl's eyes are closed. The girl calls for a stone wall, and she and the guy on the first floor slab fly up away from all the monsters. Elha looks at the guy, and they say that she leaves these monsters for him. The guy understood her and is already jumping down. The girl with short hair thinks that even though the guy is in good shape, these monsters can exhaust him very much. A girl with short hair is going to apply physical enhancement. An army of monsters is standing and about to attack the guy. Ernest continues to run, his gaze fixed forward. The girl with short hair inserts her staff forward and closes her eyes. She's about to do something. The eyes widen wide. Ernest runs to the ranks of all the monsters that are standing still and just looking after him. The monsters continue to stand and stare at the guy in a daze and make some sounds. Suddenly, Guy 1, with his spear thrust, carries several heads to the monsters that were closest to him. Ernest looks at the fleeing monsters and says in surprise that the boss has already been defeated and is out. Ernest looks up and thanks the girl for her help, because he is in a big blow today. A girl with short hair looks down at a guy. Elha says it's very difficult to give a guy a boost. The guy says that her reinforcements helped him a lot, and they are very useful at the right time. Suddenly, a monster roars from the side. The girl turns around and looks surprised. The monster, whose life was taken away, lies on the floor without any signs of life and is being eaten by some small worms. Elha opens her mouth and asks if the demons are really eating each other. The guy is calmly looking down, holding his spear. One of them divides the little monster into 2 parts. Suddenly, these 2 parts come to life, and the monsters begin to move. Ernest looks down in surprise and screams that these monsters have split up and come to life. Several monsters attack a girl with short hair, and the girl screams and asks the guy to get them away from her. The girl with short hair thanks the guy and says that physical blows do not work on these monsters. The guy asks what they should do now. The girl with short hair says that these are regenerative monsters. This type of creature will have to be destroyed in 1 attack. The guy says it's too easy, lets out a short laugh, and with a sharp movement, he begins to drive his spear in different directions, thereby lifting it up. Ernest shouts at the girl with short hair to keep an eye on the flanks. Elha replies that she understood the guy. The girl with short hair closes her one eye and tells the guy to keep up the good work and fight with all his might. The guy continues to fight monsters. A girl with short hair is summoned by the magic of enchantment. The girl says the words, "devastating blow," and the guy starts fighting monsters even faster. The guy puts his spear behind his back and says that this demon was quite strange. A girl with short hair moves towards a guy with a back and knocks him. The girl calls the guy by name. The girl with short hair says it was great, percussive, and something that was very cool. She does not agree with the girl's words. The girl with short hair says that Ernest is a genius and the best. The guy looks sideways at the girl and tells her to save these words for Alec, because he needs to raise his self-confidence. The guy thinks about it and says that now Mabel works instead of the girl with short hair. A girl with short hair is following a guy who is leaving her. A girl with short hair is calling his name. Suddenly, the guy and the girl stop. A girl with short hair notices something and looks ahead questioningly. Elha and Ernest's eyes widen when they see something ahead. They're standing next to something big and staring at it in a daze. A huge monster appears in front of the guy and the girl, who holds a weapon in one of his hands. The girl with blue hair looks up slightly and asks if it's really the boss. The girl with short hair says that most likely magical attacks will not take him and only physical damage will help. The guy says that this physical damages him. He is Melodiel, the holy swordsman. Alec and Krasia continue to fight monsters. The girl with the long hair says there are plenty of them here. The guy asks the girl to calm down, because they are weaker than she thinks. Several monsters are attacking. The girl with long hair says that she urgently needs to hurry up. The girl defeats several monsters at once with only 1 hit. They fly away without any signs of life. A girl with long hair and looks towards where the guy is. The guy shouts at the girl to start acting. A girl with long hair walks past 2 monsters. One hits with her sharp sword. The girl builds up and starts fighting these monsters. There is a dome around her that prevents monsters from attacking her. The girl closes her one eye and thinks that she needs a shield now. Suddenly, a guy appears who attacks the monster and helps his partner. Alec asks the girl not to expect perfect help from him, because he is not an elf. There is a faint smile on the guy's face. The girl with long hair looks at the guy and smiles. The next moment, a team of a guy and a girl heads forward. Somewhere in the distance, they notice all the girls who are sitting on the rocks. A guy calls a girl with long hair by name. The girl says they finally found Olivia. Olivia is sitting on the rocks and trying to bandage herself. A girl with long hair comes closer and calls Olivia by name. Olivia looks at the girl with long hair and says that she is still as good as she was before. The girl with long hair is also looking at Olivia. Olivia says that she needs a girl with long hair to heal her because she is well versed in healing magic. Kraja looks down at Olivia and says a firm and confident no. Krasia says that they came here only to bring Olivia back, and if the girl heals her, she will run away again. Olivia turns her attention to the guy and asks him if he can use healing magic. The guy says he's not good for it at all. Alec comes closer to Olivia and tells her to listen to him. The guy says that the girl with long hair does not want to bring her back for evil reasons. Alec says she's always been indifferent to everyone, but this time she came all this way to help Olivia, and they can't just leave her here. Krasia turns sharply at the guy, and his face looks angry and reddened. The guy says she can give him a lecture later. Olivia looks away and says that she knows everything and understands everything. Olivia's face looks sad. Olivia says that for this reason, so that she does not want a girl with long hair to come to her, because she only prevents her from working. Krasia stares to the side where Olivia is sitting. Olivia says if a girl with long hair doesn't want to treat her, then fine, she just gets in her way. Olivia gets to her feet and prepares to leave. Passing by a girl with long hair, she apologizes for not being able to pay her properly. Krasia is silent at first, and then says that this is why people start practicing fencing. Olivier stops and asks what the girl with the long hair meant. A girl with long hair turns around to say that it's stupid to think that she owes her something or should. The girl says that Olivia doesn't know anything about support magicians. A girl with long hair points forward and orders the guy not to let Olivia leave. The guy is surprised at first, and then says that he understood. Krasia says she really didn't want to do this, but she has her own plans. She's not going to tell Olivia about them until she finds out what's going on. Olivia says a firm and confident no, because this is her only way to get rid of someone. The guy turns to Olivia and asks if she wants to say that she is going to take revenge on the Dark Guild. Olivia asks again and says she doesn't need the Dark Guild. Olivia says she doesn't know what Lewalk said to him, but it has nothing to do with the guilds or the squad. It's just about her. The guy says, nevertheless, Mabel is worried about her. Olivia finds out about this and says that we are actually Mabel mediocre. Olivia says that the guy and the girl misunderstood everything. If they think that everyone is as good as their squad, they are mistaken. Nameless is just a group of people who are in the guild. For a reason, everyone has their own desires and goals. And finally, Olivia had the chance of a lifetime, so she decided to do it. Krasia looks sideways at Olivia and asks if the girl is talking about the traitor she mentioned earlier. Olivia confirms this and says she will take this traitor's life with her own hands. Olivia is talking about the man who was her teacher and left her mother to die. Olivia's eyes look sad and empty. Alex stands and looks ahead with surprised eyes. He remembers his teacher and asks Olivia again about his mother and teacher. Olivia turns away from the guy, and the girls walk away. She hopes that they have understood everything now, and she is going to tell them something again. Olivia stands in a circle with a star in the center. Olivia stands confident and tells no one else to get in her way. Alec and Krasia realize that Olivia has got on the teleporter, and they start running fast, hoping to make it. The guy's hand reaches out, and they made it just in time. Alec looks forward in surprise, a drop of sweat trickling down his cheek. The team stands in front of a large number of different monsters that are already ready to attack them. A group of people found themselves right in the lair of monsters.